sport fans watching around the world. This is the moment you've all been waiting for.
Let's get straight into the episode.
Yeah, we heading for the sun. Shawty got my high, I ain't tripping for the funds. Yeah, I won't start, I ain't tripping, I'm a stun.
Alright, y'all, today's a Monday and Mondays are for Docs. Thank you for clicking or tapping and let's start today's spew. And guys, you've read the title of the video. I'm very happy to be welcoming to Doxcast for the very first time, Jesse Grant.
Good to be here.
Ah, good. First try, fuck yeah. Alright, sweet. It was good to be able to touch base with you over the phone yesterday.
Yeah.
It's been like a new kind of chapter I've started doing actually in the last like 6 episodes. And it kind of just gets me a little bit more excited. I'm always excited for an episode, you know?
Yeah.
But I feel like in this one, I have a lot of stuff I do want to try and get to. And the more I went through your social media, dude, the more I'm just like, oh, man. You know what I mean? Now I'm going to fucking add this in as well. Yeah. But I thought, get the small talk out of the way first. I thought like maybe just share with not just me, but the people listening, how old you are, whereabouts you grew up, where are you now, things like that.
Yeah, so I'm 22, turn 23 next month. And growing up, that's a fucking crazy one because I grew up like so many different countries because my parents were journalists. My dad worked for CNN, which is the American company, but he was a foreign correspondent, so he'd have to go into the war zones and stuff. So when stuff was popping off in Afghanistan, we had to live in Dubai so we could fly there easier. Then when things were going on in North Korea, we had to live in China so we could go to North Korea easier, and Japan and things like that. So the first 12 years of my life was split between Hong Kong, Beijing, Dubai, and Abu Dhabi. And then came back here when I was 12, which is weird because my dad's Aboriginal as well. So I'm like this Aboriginal kid that's growing up completely away from Australia, and I'm the only like Australian at all the schools I'm going to, and the first Australian they ever have, and the first Australian they ever have is an Aboriginal kid.
Oh my gosh.
And then come back here at 12, completely different culture, like so that was a crazy one.
Dude, that's a wild experience to go through, man. That's crazy. What a combination of so many different.
Yeah.
To be honest, your personality at that age must have been so diversified from anyone else you probably could have ever encountered.
Yeah, it was weird. Like, and just the way you see the world differently, because my parents would always send me to local schools as much as they could, and we'd always live in an area that wasn't the touristy area on purpose to be amongst the culture. And so I kind of was brought up seeing the world in a completely different way to how so many Australians do, because Australia is very like Western culture. It's America, England, whereas I grew up completely in the East, like my whole childhood. And I'd come back here for our summer holidays over there, and it'd be winter here. So I'd play footy back here, and I was really into footy. So that'd be like my one little bit of like Australia. I'd have like 10 weeks of footy, and then be back in over in the East. So when we did move back, it was just so weird. Like it was like I was an Australian, but just there was something different. Like it was so weird, just a weird culture shock in a way.
Damn, that is incredible, dude. There's so much just for me to unpack on that. First of all, 22, you said 22
Yeah,
years
22.
old. I could have guessed you're 27, 20, you know what I mean? 22 is wild, bro. 22 is sick. Like you're definitely outspoken enough to have the charisma of someone who's like 27 to 30. Definitely.
I started young. I started the whole like content creation stuff as soon as COVID hit, my first year out of high school, so at 18.
Yeah.
And so, I got in my reps with YouTube videos and podcast episodes, recorded over 100 podcast episodes before I was probably 20 years old.
Wow.
And I'm up to like 800 and something YouTube videos at this point. So it was like a lot of reps. Definitely in the beginning at 18, I sounded 18.
Yeah, wow. All right, well, growing up and being put into these local schools and trying to pretty much moving consistently the entire time, do you think, looking back and reflecting, was that a more beneficial form of education or less?
Probably more beneficial, not for like the actual classes you do in school, but just meeting people and just understanding the world. Like, and it's weird how things like come back full circle, because when we first moved to Abu Dhabi, they sent me to the local school, which was like a Muslim school. And and obviously there was, for like the last 100 years, there've been conflicts between Palestine and Israel, and people now are talking about it, but I had no idea at the time. I was 8 years old, but when they asked me where I was from, I said Australia. They thought I said Israel. And so within the first 10 minutes of entering the school, I had 30 kids run up and try and attack me, like legit start throwing punches. Like it was mental. And I was like, what the hell? And I hear them yelling Israeli. I was like, I'm from Australia. And they're like, oh, Australia, okay. And so like you learn like these weird sort of culture things at a really young age just through accident, just through meeting people.
Yeah.
And then the great thing about that too is like you meet Muslims, you meet Jewish people when I went to an international school in China, and people from so many different countries, and you just kind of learn people more so and cultures more so than like the actual classes. And I feel like that's such a good education to have in life, because the world is people. It's not, English class or history class or whatever.
Yeah, damn, that is so accurate, because to be honest, all school is there to teach you to do is learn how to learn, nothing's beneficial once you get past the age of like 7. You know what I mean?
Exactly, yeah.
It's all about the human interactions, the communication skills, the networking. Like they're the most beneficial things when I think back on it in school.
Yeah.
And just exposure to IRL and in general. When your parents were moving around so much, you said they were both journalists?
Yeah, so my mum was a sports journalist, and so she would just be like freelance most of the time because we'd move every 2 years, so she couldn't really hold down a job. But she's done work like just through bits and bobs with like ESPN and China Central Television, like just all different types of networks. And then like the ABC here, Channel 7, Channel 9, she's done some stuff with. So so she was kind of just whatever, and my dad was mainly with CNN as I was growing up. But he was hardly around because his job was going into the places. So what was crazy is like he would go to Afghanistan, it's meant to be for like a month, and he would get a call in the middle of the night. I would be asleep, and then I'd wake up in the morning and he's gone already.
Wow.
And he's only been back for 4 days or something from the last trip. And then the day he's meant to come back, they get detained because the Taliban are like, what do they know? And so the Taliban put him in jail and like all this crazy stuff. And so he was hardly around.
Oh my God.
And so like when he was there, he was like always like such a good dad or whatever, because he knew he didn't have much time. And so, yeah, it was a weird kind of situation with my parents. Mum kind of always working as a freelance journalist and busy, and then dad kind of never there. And then being in different countries every 2 years.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was wild.
Man, I think that is so far from what I've heard so far in your life story. It's an experience that most people won't get out of 80 years of being alive,
Yeah.
Very fortunate to be in the position. I'm sure it came with hardship, and I'm sure it came with adversity, trust me, along the way. I'm not denying that. But just from experience-wise, like, you've gained some XP, dude.
Oh, yeah, it's
unbelievably.
insane.
Yeah, that's crazy. So I want to touch on this too before we move on. With your dad being a journalist for CNN and constantly going to war zones and places that have tragedy, was that a big part of your childhood? Were you open? Was your mind open to the fact that this world is nuts? Because I remember being a child myself, I didn't necessarily have much insight to the problems of the world. It was more like my day-to-day problems of like, I want a new tech deck or Bakugan or Pokemon deck.
Yeah, for sure. And like, just he would never come home and like talk to me about the stuff he saw, but you would just overhear conversations between him and his friends, and like all of his best friends were people he worked with. And so I was friends with their kids, and so we'd always be at family dinners, and you'd hear the stories, and like it's just like mental, and some stuff that like I wouldn't even repeat, and just some really gruesome, horrible things. And so yeah, you kind of learn like the truth of the world, because even if you put together all the kind of safe countries in the world, England, America, Australia, like that's not even a third of the planet. Like most people in the world are living in crazy situations. And so it was kind of weird, because like I wouldn't say anything because I've been fortunate enough to grow up like pretty lucky, like we haven't struggled financially or anything. But I have like family members that would talk about financial problems, and I'm like, yeah, but you're still living so good. Like just the fact you're in Australia, like a poor person in Australia is so wealthy compared to so many other places. And so it definitely like opened my mind to that stuff, and I understood how bad life could be, and it kind of, I feel like made me happier more so. And so like it kind of helped in a weird way with mental health. I haven't really struggled with that much, because just, I don't know, just the understanding of gratitude of just knowing like how bad life can be, and just that back of the mind knowledge really did help.
Damn, that's insane and intense, to be honest. So the two words I can mostly use to describe that situation. I think that whenever I go overseas, even if it's just for a holiday and I'm not really exposed to much of the local way of living, it's a nice eye opener when you do get those little glances of like, oh my gosh, these people are really living with way less than we've got. I've said this story on the podcast before, but just one tour guide I remember speaking to in one country, it was either like Bali or some Indonesian country. I think it was Bali actually. I was asking him, what are you going to do after work today? Because he was driving me around all day. And he goes, I'll drop off the car, I'll go back, I'll clean it, and I'll probably get home at about 11 p.m. And I'm like, that's pretty late, but like good hustle. But what are you going to watch when you get home? Like, what's your series? And he's like, oh, I don't know. I said, what do you watch on Netflix? And he's like, what's Netflix?
Yeah.
And I said, oh, they mustn't have Netflix over here. Okay. So what do you use to watch your movies? Like, what's your streaming platform? And he goes, what's movies? And I'm like, oh, okay. What's this word I'm trying to, translate? And I'm like, when you watch a story being told through a screen, like you're consuming a bit of content. Like I'm trying to say it without using as big direct words. And then he's like, oh, movies. I've heard of this. Never seen. And that blew my mind. It was like the first real moment of being like, man, I'm living a life that most people in the world can't even imagine living a life of, When you were traveling around and growing up in different places, were the places you were living at exposing you to different ways of adversity and not just suffering, but like, when you'd come back for those 10-week periods, was it like, oh, this is a real grateful place of the world to be living compared to some of the places
Australia felt like a resort when you come back. Like, I would say when we lived in Dubai, no, because Dubai is just like this weird utopian city. Like, and even when we lived there, hardly anyone knew of Dubai in 2007.
Yeah.
But even then, it was just sick. But then when we were living in China and Hong Kong, you'd come back here and you got like these amazing beaches and everyone's driving cars and everyone's really like it's just this resort almost. And then in China, where we lived in like the more local area, I had friends close by and stuff that the first time we lived there, and I'd go and stay at their place, and they lived in these kind of mud kind of houses. Like it was just dirt poor, and no doors, no toilet, chickens running into the house when you're trying to sleep, like mental. But my parents were like happy that I would stay at places like that and knew it because it was like such a cool experience.
Wow. And was these like local people, if you were in China and Hong Kong, were they like traditional Chinese Hong Kong citizens?
Yeah.
Like...
So in Beijing, there were local people in Beijing. So like that house that I stayed at, when we first moved to Beijing, they just caught a taxi and the taxi driver took them to this place and ended up waiting for them. It was really nice. They're like, oh, let's like employ this guy. They don't get paid much anyway, so let's employ him to just be our driver. They were always working. I needed to get to school and stuff. And so you'd pay him like just such a cheap wage, right? But he was so grateful for it and he would be our driver. So I'd stay at his place and his kid's place. And they're so dirt poor. But then we moved away for a couple of years living in Dubai. When we moved back, they had worked so hard and saved all the money we paid him while driving to then get an apartment and then get a rental apartment. And now his son, I just saw him the other month, he was going to Sydney Uni. So like he moved from China to Sydney Uni to study. And so like they worked their way up. So when I first met them, they were living in a toiletless, doorless mud house in the middle of like a slum in Beijing, to now having like, 3 apartments in Beijing, and he just graduated from Sydney. Like it's mad.
That's beautiful, man. Wow, that's an amazing story of overcoming that's against all odds, right?
Yeah. And so like just knowing people like that, it just makes you just so much more grateful than everywhere else in life.
Yeah, definitely, man. Did you learn much of the native languages when you were living in these countries? Were you able to speak?
When we first lived there, because there's a rule in China where you can't go to a local Chinese school if you're not Chinese past the age of 8. And so when we first lived there, I went to the local preschool, kindy, and so I could speak it fluently because they taught me in Mandarin. All my friends spoke Mandarin. They didn't speak English. Then we moved away. By the time we moved back, I forgot so much. Yeah. So there's like little words. I can order some stuff at a Chinese restaurant, whatever, but before I was like fluent, when they wanted to order pizza, they would put me on the phone at 5 years old to order everything. So yeah, I've forgotten it, which is sad.
Yeah, it's still awesome, but to be able to speak it even at 5 years old. Yeah. That's pretty cool. Wow. All right. Well, so you said for the first 12 years of your life you were doing that. So then did you spend high school in Australia?
Yeah, so it was like really important. After my dad did that foreign correspondent job for 10 years and a lot of his friends passed away and some bad stuff happened, he's like, I don't want to do this anymore. I just want to live a more stress-free life. So he's like, let's move back to Australia. I think it's important for, because I've got 2 older brothers as well, for us to have an education in Australia, a high school education here, just to know where we're from. And so, yeah, I did half of year 6, and then all of high school here.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. All right. And then, so I want to come back, and I'm sure I'll find lots of relations to the childhood you grew up in to lead to the person you are today. But I know that, and as you mentioned, it's pretty much straight out of high school is when you started to make videos for the first time, all right? I've got a date written down, which was April 26th, 2020. Which was the Flickers episode 1.
Yeah.
I'm not a journalist myself, but I do a little bit of research.
Like Nardwar. You know Nardwar? Yeah. Pulling out things from the past. Yeah, that's you.
Yeah. I try to do a little bit of research, but again, when I do it, it does take away the story I like to gain in person.
Yeah.
You know? So there's just little bits that I've looked into. But if that was about a month into COVID or 2 months into COVID by memory, because I kind of remember in my own personal life, I had a boxing match for April of 2020, which I was never able to do, which kind of threw me off my path of boxing forever.
Yeah.
You know, or at least for now. But that was, to be honest, I hear a lot of stories about people who made a big jump and made a leap and made an effort, and COVID kind of pushed people along.
Yeah.
It was obviously a time of suffering for a lot of people. Like, it did have a lot of badness to it, but at the same time it also helped push people into good light, you know. And I want to know, what was that moment like for you before starting episode 1? How did you get there? What sparked that? What made that come to life?
So I was at acting and film school, and so I started that out of high school because I was, like you, got derailed boxing. I was doing basketball, like really like trying to go to college, and I had a few scholarship opportunities, but I did my syndesmosis ligament, 4 other complete tears, just a terrible injury. And I saw like the best ankle specialist in Australia, and he's like, you can't play basketball. So that was done. So I was like, what else do I love? I love movies. I love film. Let's go to film school and acting school.
Do you mind if I ask what film school and acting school?
AFTT. So it's in Surrey Hills.
Yeah.
Within a month of being there, we're like now at home due to COVID, and you're doing acting class over Zoom. Doesn't fucking work. So I'm like, what do I do with my time? How else can I kind of stay productive and keep moving forward to a goal of mine, which is to make movies? Let's talk about movies. And so I just started a movie podcast with my brother. He also likes movies. So just did that. And it was like, we came up with the idea on a Thursday and the episode was out on Sunday. So like, let's just go for it.
Yeah, wow. Okay, awesome. Now, when that mindset you would have had to be like, how do I stay productive during this time in which I still want to get to my end goal, but, you know, in my life and my experiences, whenever I do get an obstacle, I use that as an excuse. I use that as a leg to stand on, to be like, I can't, I've got this coming up, you know. Easy examples, like I've got a holiday in a couple months, and I'm like, no point quitting vaping until then. I'll quit on the plane. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's easy for me to find excuses. What helped you with that mindset? Did it come from the way your parents raised you up? Was it like
basketball? Because I started played footy as a kid, and then when I was like, I want to play footy at high school. What's a bludge sport I can do in the summer to not get injured? Basketball. Ended up falling in love with basketball instead, and I was like, I really want to I loved it. So I just trained really hard, and I looked up how to get better at basketball and how to make rep teams. And I would see these documentaries on professional basketball players talking about their routines and how hard they train. I'm like, okay, I got to do that then.
Yeah.
And so I just got from 13, 14 years old in the habit of just training for basketball all the time. And that built this sort of discipline and productiveness. And so so even post basketball, I was like, well, I've got to find another goal and I've got to keep the same routine. Otherwise, I'll lose myself, right? And it keeps me happy. It keeps my, I think it was just playing basketball. And so just finding time in between school, rep basketball training, school basketball training, and then also my own personal development. It was like a 24/7 grind schedule that I got so used to that I think I just kind of kept it up in other avenues.
Yeah, okay, awesome. I'm definitely going to put a pin in that, because self-development and progression and almost an addictive trait in which it can become is something that I've been putting a lot of thought power into lately. But when it came back to basketball, obviously you're a big fan of Kobe and Michael Jordan and things like that. Though I've watched heaps of documentaries about basketball. I'm not even a fan of. I've never even watched one game. I couldn't tell you what points are worth. I have no idea.
Yeah.
I know a 3, but that's about it. Right? That is some of the most motivating stories to ever exist. Like the Kobe mentality to me is showing up early and leaving later. So that's the number one, and I try and implement that into my life as much as possible. Michael Jordan's stories of like consistency and persistence and leading teams and like going for the next championship, whatever you call the trophy at the end of the year. Like, I love those stories. So for you to find basketball was definitely a mad trajectory forward.
It helps so much, and even just playing any sport. I think if you can throw yourself into that sport and learn from even other athletes, like I would look at good tennis players and people like Djokovic, look at their kind of routines, how they would progress. Boxers especially, like there are some amazing boxers out there that if you look into like how they develop, people like Anthony Joshua didn't start boxing till he was 18, by 22 won the Olympics. Like, okay, how the fuck did he do that? And so just throwing yourself into any sport and learning from other athletes, I do think it sets you up perfectly for life. I think I saw somewhere someone said like the best entrepreneurs are usually former athletes or people that took sports seriously at one point in their life, because it just sets you up perfectly.
Yeah, definitely. And because once you build that routine and once you start implementing cues, habits and routines into like progression and self-development and motivation and moving it forward, not just existing in the present moment, like really you'll apply it to every single aspect in your life outside of that one thing you're doing. You're just reinventing the wheel inside the way your thought process happens. Like, it's amazing. It's amazing. Now, as I said, back to April 26th, 2020, I listened to that episode, all right, in doing research for this episode, and it was good, dude. It was honestly good. Like, I didn't expect it for episode 1.
Kind of lucky, like growing up, being behind the scenes at news companies and seeing my parents like talk on the news or do whatever like media stuff they do. So we were like lucky in a sense of understanding, I guess, cadence and voice and speaking and so forth. We did get better. It wasn't the best, but yeah, I think we had a slight little like more experienced head start in a weird way.
Yeah. And that's kind of what I was kind of getting to the question of, like, how did that sound as good as it did? Like, and I've listened to the most recent one as well, which came out November 2023, sometime in November 2023. Before I go any further, was that the last episode you recorded?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I kind of just went full time on YouTube instead. Since then, so I think that was the last podcast.
Yeah, cool. Obviously, listening to that, comparing that to episode 1, it almost takes away everything good I have to say about episode 1, because that recent one is so much better. You know what I mean? But it doesn't take away that original point, which was when I did my first episode. In the moment, it was fun. It was great. Like, I did it with my best mate. Like, so we pretty much just had a laugh the entire time. And I thought, fuck yeah, this is dope. Looking back at it now, I'm like, absolute garbage. It's just trash. Terrible. How did anyone even click on it? You know? It's funny looking back on it like that. But was that your first introduction to posting content for the first time, hosting that episode?
Yeah. The only thing that was ever on the internet of me was just basketball highlights. And so, yeah, that was the first time I was like, okay, content, podcast. I didn't even listen to that many podcasts at the time. And since then, I've fallen in love with them. So, yeah, that was just a massive leap and jump. And I kind of have this weird mindset of just like, if I want to do something, I just feel like I can do it. And I just try it. And so that's kind of what we did. Like I said, the idea was on a Thursday and the episode is out on Sunday. So
yeah, that's awesome. Okay, cool. So I noticed that you did the episode with your brother. Did you consistently do it with your brother for the entire time?
Yeah, for a while, and then he's a musician, so he got busy doing gigs and stuff post-COVID, and so since then he hasn't been able to do any episodes, and I kind of went down my own lane as well with my own personal YouTube channel, so we kind of just grew in separate ways. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I want to get into a minute about why you stopped doing the podcast, but I'm curious more why you consistently did the podcast, because like I know from experience it's something that takes a lot of time, effort and consistency. You have the mindset to be able to do something like that, but what kept you doing it?
It's just fun. It's just so much fun. I enjoyed it, and just knowing like you're only ever one episode away from moving the needle forward and getting to where you want to be in life, your content creation journey, and just staying patient. And that's just I just kept thinking like, even if we're 30 episodes in and getting nowhere, 40 episodes in, just keep going, because the only way you can lose is if you quit. So I
Yeah.
just refuse to quit anything really. And same thing with my YouTube channel. I think it was 400 videos before I was even monetized. So that's 1,000 subscribers. And I get people messaging me like, oh man, I've done 25 videos and I've only got like 50 subscribers. I'm like, bro, at video 60, I had 4 subscribers, okay? And only 2 views on each video, and it was me. So like, I was watching my own stuff to give it views. So like, it's just staying consistent is the main thing with any content creation.
Yeah.
And I just kind of understood that with the podcast. I listened to other content creators and tried to learn from them, and they all just say the same thing, just keep at it. And so many other content creators, like, you think they're these huge overnight successes, and you go back, they've been doing it for 8, 9, 10 years, you know. Joe Rogan's first episode was horrible in like 2007 or something.
Yeah.
And so, and when did he blow up? Like 2015 or whatever. So it takes a while.
Yeah, definitely. Everyone that I listen to, and I'm a massive podcast geek. Like, I spend way too much time, to be honest. I should be spending more productive time, but I can't help myself. Like, every single one of them had a story of a massive leap in terms of what they were doing, but the consistency is only the thing to give the fruits to, because like, use Theo Von. He's one of the biggest podcasters of all time now. Like, he might be the second most listened to on a weekly trending basis. I swear he was doing it for something like 7, 8 years, pulling in like maybe up to like 2, 3, 4, 5,000 views.
Yeah.
But there was still a long period of time where he wasn't getting any views. You know, Chris Will X, I think his channel is called. He said like he didn't even know what he was going to do. What's the point of showing up and doing it? And he would just press record and start talking. And now look at his channel. He's got one of the most clickbaity worth content of all time, because everything he speaks is gospel. So I couldn't agree with you anymore. I believe that the only reason things won't improve is if you stop doing it. If you just do the same thing every day, you'll at least get faster at doing that same thing, you know? And if you apply that little bit of additional information, like, I want to have an open mind to improve, then of course you're going to grow and get better. Your YouTube in general, I'm going to get to in a second, with 70,000 subscribers. Like, I didn't even know your YouTube until very recently. Because I've been watching your Instagram videos. And I'm just like, props, bro. I just seen it. I'm just clapping. So I'll get to YouTube in a second too, but what made you stop doing the podcast entirely? You said it was fun. That's what kept you going through it. I'm going to get to in a second about the content about the podcast, but what made you stop doing it?
I started doing my own YouTube stuff, and I realized that I kind of loved that a little more. And also in terms of growing, that was growing a little faster. I found some other kind of little bit of success on TikTok as well. And so the own personal thing was kind of growing. I was like, okay, this is growing faster. Let's just give this a go, and let's just focus on this a little more and see what I can make of it. And when I focused on it a little bit, I ended up getting monetized. And by the time I was monetized, I was like, okay, if this just makes me 50 cents a month, that's 50 cents more than the podcast. So let's just double down on this. And that became a full-time job eventually. So the podcast has kind of been on and off, and I changed now the podcast Instagram to a professional Instagram for myself. And now I'm kind of, the YouTube's growing itself, and now it's like, okay, let's grow the Instagram, because then you have a multimedia platform, and I think Instagram can grow faster than YouTube. So that's kind of the reason why I stopped, just being analytical and planning for the future. You kind of, I feel like when it comes to content creation, you have to be a little devious in a way.
Of course.
And you have to think, okay, what's working? How can I not manipulate it, but how, like, what moves the needle forward to where I want to be, which is, you know, millions of followers. Because if you don't have that as a goal, what's the point? And so what's going to push me there right now? It's the personal YouTube and the Instagram. So that's why I kind of moved away from the podcast. But it is so much fun, and I'd love to keep doing interviews, and even just being a guest on podcasts is super fun. So
yeah, cool. I'm glad it's fun being a guest on podcasts. You know? I'm glad. I think devious is a great word to use. I understand it from a personal level, because I do it myself as well, and I see it almost like you have to authentically orchestrate yourself through social media. So you have to stay true to what you want to do, but also consider what works. You know, and
it's a constant battle.
balance.
It's a weird one. Like, even understanding titles, you feel like you're becoming something you don't like. You're like, oh, I don't really want to trick people into watching my video, but also at the end of the day, it's a business. And I heard a great quote by this YouTuber called Ali Abdal, who said it's only clickbait if the audience doesn't get value from it. So if you can make a title that's going to make them click, but they get value from it, and you're not lying in your video or being someone you're not, then that's totally fine, because all the thumbnail and the title is just to get the click.
Yeah.
That's not the content. The content is the content. So as long as your content is who you are, it's fine.
That's a great way to. I'm gonna start looking at it from that lens as well, because I've had trouble in my own life trying to not go down that little devilish instinct I have to be like, oh, this is what will get me more attention. This is what will get more views.
I mean,
like,
if you have no boundaries at all, then you're just going to end up as like a porn site. You know what I mean? By the end of the day, you'll just end up as a porn site, because that's going to get the most clicks. And so, like, if you got to have some boundaries. But right. like there are some crazy YouTubers out there, you know, people like like Sneeko and stuff that'll just say some crazy stuff because he knows it gets attention. And I personally don't expand my boundaries that far. But I'll keep it to what I'm comfortable with. Yeah,
definitely. All right. In the YouTube scene of what you've been doing, the furthest back video I could find was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
To be honest, I didn't even understand it. It was some actress, I think Madonna. Someone was going to play Madonna.
Madonna in a movie. Yeah.
Something to do with that. And it had like 400 views. And the more I scrolled up, the more I could see this roller coaster, because I like reverse engineering.
Yeah.
Instead of going from the top down, I like to see from the origin story up. And it was a roller coaster ride of, you know, a couple thousand, and then it would be back to a couple hundred, and then you might hit like 10, 20,000, and then it might get 50. So it's a constant wave. Yeah. And then, of course, props to you, you had videos that were getting closer to 750,000 every now and then, and big spikes in gauge and reach. How much do you, in that, not compare it to now, but in those moments of, I'm going to call it shining, how much value did you hold to those views in those first moments of spiking?
Well, a lot, I'd say. Like, I wanted to get views, so like that was a big thing. And when I'd get a lot of views, and I was like, okay, that's great. What can I learn from that? But I also knew in that time where it was more of a roller coaster, a few thousand, then 20 views. That was at a time where I wasn't even monetized yet, and so randomly the algorithm would just push a video. And the nature of what I talk about is more so to do with like what's trending and stuff. So if obviously a Marvel movie is going to get more views than just an independent film. And so I put a lot of value on it, but I also knew it's going to dip as well. And you just got to keep riding that wave until it kind of goes up and down, but in an upward trajectory in a way, which is where I'm kind of at now. And so at the time, I just knew just stay consistent. And if you can do a few thousand views once, you can do it again and probably do more. And so just kind of, riding that wave and just keeping with it. And you feel down. Like if you post a video and you wake up and there's hardly any views, like you're like, fuck this, why am I doing this? But I'm just going to keep showing up, and hopefully it'll work out, and it eventually does.
I know what that feels like when you feel at that moment. It's usually when it comes in a form of like a late night editing thing, or it might even be like it usually comes when you're tired, I find, like, or even when you really want to be doing something else. Like, you know, I really want to go hang out with someone right now. I want to go see someone. I want to go hit up this girl, you know, I want to do something. But then when you really think about the fact that your last video only got X amount of views, then you go, what the fuck am I doing this for? Is there anything else I could be doing with my life right now? But it's that practice and that discipline that is what keeps you. You know, the basketball was a great experience that put you into that position.
But like I said, 400 videos before I had 1,000 subscribers. And so
that's wild.
I think I got my first 1,000 views before video 100.
Yeah.
So like it was really up and down until I got to that subscriber point at the end of 2022. So it's just a matter of showing up every day. And I pretty much would post like a video a day for a long time there. Now it can be a lot smaller because I need to maintain a higher view count for sponsors and things like that. But at the time, it's just showing up day in, day out, no matter how many times YouTube will just like destroy you and crush you and literally kick you down. Just keep showing up every day.
Well, there's the good mindset that I feel like a lot of the planet is either adopting now, or I've just stepped up into a position where I'm noticing the world's already had this mindset. But every no you get is just one more beneficial thing you need to learn on your way to getting your yes.
Definitely. You know, and it makes it sweeter when you do finally succeed, or you make your first $100 or first 1,000 or 10,000. You're like, all the like setbacks you had before, it just makes it so much better.
Yeah.
And the fact that there was no handouts, the fact that you didn't just get lucky, it just makes you feel more deserving and more happy. Because if you have video number 7 just get lucky by the algorithm and that sets you off, you can feel a bit like an imposter. But I don't feel like an imposter at all, because it took, before I was even able to go full time, it took 600 and something videos. So it does help, and it makes it so much sweeter.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's that same mentality of, and I've been talking about it for not every episode, but on and off for the last like 10, 20. If people woke up as a millionaire, or people won the lotto, and people will do it all the time, they win $100 million,
And then they lose the money.
They lose it all.
Yeah.
They go worse than they were when they didn't have any money.
It's like the people that made money on crypto.
Yeah.
And they've wasted it
They've
now.
just blown all of it because they haven't developed the mindset it takes to be a multi-millionaire.
Mm-hmm.
If you instantly blew up, like a lot of people do, they get those quick moments of fame by viral moments. Like, we know a lot of them fall off, and it's because they haven't yet learned what it takes to be the type of individual to make content to consistently gauge audience. Like, I think that the level of dedication required to be someone with success in any field, not just content, it's athletes, it's business owners, it takes years and years of practice. You know, no one's going to blow up overnight. It's a shame, but they want but we haven't even touched on it yet, but a lot of my mates listening, they might not even know, but the content that you put out there is all to do with film, movies, series, cinematic, things like that. You said to me it was something you were very interested in, and that's why you got into acting in the first place. Shut up, Siri. How big of a part of your childhood or late adulthood was watching and consuming movies and things?
It was huge. Like, even when I was super into basketball, the movies I was watching were basketball movies, sport movies, because I just learned so much from movies, and it's just the way I think. Siri. I think some people are like visual learners or like oral learners. I'm definitely a visual learner, and I love stories. I've always loved being told stories. I love telling stories, writing stories, watching stories. So just movies were everything to me. Like, I think what's weird too is you can only connect the dots looking back, but as a kid, moving from country to country, you change friends all the time. You hardly see your family, hardly see your parents. The one thing that was consistent was I'd wake up at 5 a.m. and I'd turn on like Nickelodeon or Disney Channel, and I'd watch the same 4 shows before heading to school every morning. So I'd watch the same stories, and they were like my friends. And then I'd come home at night. I wouldn't do homework. I'd watch movies. And, Morgan Freeman in Shawshank Redemption is a friend. You know what I mean? Like these people in movie, like they become like your friends, and they're the one consistent thing in your life. No matter what country you're in, that movie's the same. That TV character's the same. And I love stories, everything to do with them. So
stories is the ultimate form of human connection, and I feel like, and it's kind of an epiphany I had doing the podcast of why it feels so amazing to sit down and have a conversation with someone. Is because it's probably a natural primal instinct that we have going back as far as the human condition can possibly stretch, because after we were comfortable enough to go out and gather our food and we've built shelter, now we're safe, and everyone's like, all right, we good for tonight? Yeah, we're good for tonight. They would have just sat around and started telling stories. Yeah. You know, that's what creates human interaction and bonding. Yeah. It's sharing experiences, and it's writing a narrative, and it's inviting people into a world in which they're not yet familiar with, which is the most beneficial part of my life and existence, being able to have good conversation with people.
And why you like anything is usually because of a story. I find, at least, like, why do people call Michael Jordan the GOAT? Because of the story of his career, because of the flu game and things like that. And why do people, you might have a favorite t-shirt or something because there's a story associated to that t-shirt. Why are these people your friends? Because you've built stories together. You have shared experiences. So to me, like, why anything is good is all because of a story. Like, that's the reason marketing is all story based, because stories are just the most impactful thing in the world. Yeah. And I think if you want to make change in the world, it needs to be in some form of storytelling. Podcasters, comedians, anything is all like stories. Yeah. You watch the news, it's stories. Yeah. So it's just such an important aspect, and I love everything about it.
Yeah, I never even noticed it too until you just said it, but my favorite things in life are because of the stories behind them. Like, I've got my 2 favorite brands, like, one's a female clothing brand, White Fox, and one's the Australian Western Sydney brand G'd Up.
Mm-hmm.
They're my two favorite brands because of the stories in which that brand now exists. Like
Yeah,
I love the
yeah.
story of White Fox and how they blew up because of certain business moves they did, and I love the Western Sydney culture of G'd
Yeah.
Up, which
And the founder, was it Paco or something's his
Paco,
name?
yeah.
Like the story he's associated to his brand, it's so smart. And the stories, like the story of his life and the way he incorporates that into, he's so good at what he's done.
marketing. He's probably one of the best marketing geniuses.
Yeah,
I've ever
but
laid eyes
authentic
on.
too. It's not a lie. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm a massive fan of Paco.
Yeah.
Everything he's done. He's actually one of my dream guests. I hope to get on the podcast in the next couple of years. But if that's the content that you've always wanted to put out there because it's something that you found the most interest in and you ended up starting acting school in the first place to do it, is it something that you're still looking at doing, the acting route?
Definitely. The acting's a weird one. Like, I definitely enjoy it, but look, I think when you first fall in love with movies, you only see the actors. You're like, oh, I'll do that because I want to make movies. But then you start to realize, well, the actors aren't telling their story. They're the cog in the machine of someone else telling their story. And I want to tell stories. I want to make stories. I don't get interested in helping someone else tell their story in a weird way. Like, and there are some people that just love it. They love being a part of someone else's vision. I don't enjoy that as much. So I would definitely act in something that I made. Like what Matt Damon did with Good Will Hunting. He wrote that and then acted in it.
I didn't know that he wrote that.
Yeah,
That's
because
awesome.
he couldn't get any movie roles. He wasn't landing any auditions. So him and Ben Affleck were like, what can we do? Let's just make our own movie and see what happens. And they won an Oscar.
Wow.
But so I just, I do love acting, but I struggle to help someone else tell their story. And I'm in my head, I'm always like, oh, but you could do this better.
Yeah.
Even though it might not be better, it's just different. That's just the way I would do it.
Yeah.
And so, yes, I definitely want to make movies. And the goal is still the same, and it's a very long-term vision. You don't really get to be a director and movie producer until you're really quite late into your middle ages. And so the goal is by the time I'm 60, I want to be making movies on a mass scale and have my own movie studio and produce films. So whether that's writing and directing my own, but also producing movies that I don't direct and write, because I just love movies and I see the importance of them and I want to make as many as possible. And the best way to do that is through a studio. So if I can grow the YouTube, if I can grow the Instagram, the bigger that gets, you can turn that into a media company and then branch out into that stuff.
Damn.
So it's a really long-term vision, but I'm just super committed to it because I love it.
Yeah, damn. It's amazing that you have that much foresight to be able to see something so far in the future. All my goals, I have got goals, obviously, that are long-term based. Like the age of 60, I have got a vision. But all my goals are very, very short-term based. And to be honest, I have no patience either. It's like, I want to achieve this in 6 days.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
It's something
I
phenomenal.
can be really similar. But also, I do, like, as a caveat, I do think some people on the internet now is like, you need to set goals this way. Like, what works for you is what works. I know I've heard some really successful people say, I don't plan because plans can turn to shit. And then some other successful people say, you've got to plan everything. I think it's just what works for you. For me, having a vision of when I'm 60, 70 years old and know what I'm working towards and a bigger, wider vision works. But for some people, that might not help them at all.
Yeah.
And so, if you're a more short-term person, it's totally fine.
Yeah. It's just the difference in way people think, which I
Yeah.
find the most interest in general. Like, I think that if everyone thought the same way, we wouldn't even have progression.
Yeah,
As
exactly.
it is. So I'm curious as well. You mentioned that most people don't get into directing until they're late in their 60s, and that's obviously something you're familiar with, being a massive fan of not just film storytelling, but how stories are being told in the first place. How and why do you think that is the case? Like, why can't someone step up and start directing at a more younger age?
Experience and having an understanding of the world and having stories to tell. Because some people, like Quentin Tarantino, came out of the womb with like 30,000 stories he wanted to tell, and he made his first movie feature film at 27 or something. So there are some amazing directors in their 20s, 30s, but for the most part, when they really start coming into their own as middle, late 40s, 50s, I think it's just all down to experience and just expertise in the field. And so many directors start off as actors or as writers or producers or work somewhere else. And so I think it's, an experience thing. Like even me, I think if I was to make a movie now, I probably have, I reckon, two stories in me that I really think are good. And I think by the time you're in your 50s, that's when you've got 10, 15, 20 stories and you have a bigger understanding. And also, you've got to manage all these people on set. It's very rare for someone to have the leadership qualities at 22 to talk to like a 60-year-old film producer that's been doing it for 30 years and tell him, nah, you're doing that wrong. You got to, it's like, it's a weird kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think because they're a leader, it's almost like they're the president of that set. On set, and so if you had like the president of the United States at 23, you'd be like, what the fuck does this kid know?
Well, what's the alternative? You've got the president of the United States at 93.
Oh man, I watched the debate and there's a bit, I don't think many people notice it, but Donald Trump farts. And so I'm like, you've got one man farting and the other guy who doesn't know what he's talking about. What the fuck is going on? Yeah, exactly. It's just...
Okay, that's wild. I'm scientific. We won't go down the political aspect of the United States at the moment, but I think one of the hardest skills that I've learned in life is really handing over reign of responsibility to someone else when you feel like it's your project, and that might be a skill the director might have to learn how to do at some point, which might play a big contributing factor as to why they're not as successful until they get older, because even running a baby like a YouTube channel, right, or an Instagram, how hard would that be to hand that over to someone else to control your posts, your content, your consistency, your scheduling? Like that's a scary, scary world to step into. But the most successful YouTubers are the ones that I watch that they say along their journey, they had to hand the editing off to someone else. Yeah. And then they could take the next leap and bound forwund. Being a director, dude, you'd have to be like, all right, bro, trust, you know what I mean? Like, all right,
you've got graphic designers, editors, actors, sound engineers. It's like hundreds of people on set doing all that. And all your job is like to have a vision and best tell people how to make that vision come to life.
Yeah. And to be honest, the hardest part of that would be trust to let them cook. Like, do your thing, you know? Like, so the networking has to be a big factor.
Yeah, definitely. And that's why you see a lot of movies get made with the same people over and over again. And people are like, oh, that's so bad. They just work with their friends. Like, that is bad because they're not giving others opportunities. But I understand it because if you're going to be on set for 6 months, you want to make sure that you're, one, friends with them, and two, you can trust them completely. They're not going to fuck up your work.
Yeah.
And you can trust that the editor is going to best get your vision across because you understand how each other work and think. And that's probably the same with the YouTube channel. I have no team at the moment. I'm signed with a management company and they do all my emails and stuff. But when it comes to like the editing, it's all me, but I know at about 100,000 subscribers, I'm going to hire an editor and a thumbnail person. And it gives me like a panic attack, but it would be, you got to do it eventually.
Yeah. Damn, that's phenomenal, bro. Okay, I'm going to circle back to the YouTube in a second, but I will come back to film. It took 600 episodes, you say, until you became monetized? Or is that how many you've got now?
400 videos until I got monetized.
Yep.
400 and something. And then over 600 videos until I was able to earn a full-time. So what I'd say a full-time is like the average salary of $5,000-$6,000 a month from YouTube. It was 600 and something videos. Now I'm at 800. And I checked yesterday, like 830 videos or something I'm at now.
Yeah.
And so it's just, a really long time. And like I've got more videos than some like, top creators. It just took me that long, but I just stuck with it. And I think Mr. Beast as well did like 1,000 videos before he was monetized or something. Yeah. So he was like, it took him a while and he's the greatest ever. Yeah. So it's just, you just got to really stick at it. And that YouTube's just a numbers game, I think.
I think it has to be different for everyone. It can't be a complete systematic routine of like, this is how many videos it takes until you start doing it, because
people want like some answer. People want like, it's going to take 87 videos and you have to do this. Like there's no exact science. And no matter how many time people say like, I have 1 million subscribers, trust what I say. Like, but luck did play a part somewhere in there.
Of course.
I had to get lucky. Like the video, I posted one video, it did 2,000 views. 2 days later, I posted a video that did 1 million views.
Oh.
That's luck.
Yeah.
That's not like, I didn't orchestrate some plan. And you can make it out like you did after you've done it,
of course.
But you didn't. It doesn't happen that way. Yeah.
Luck is a word that I always play on, and I don't know if necessarily luck can play against all odds. That's all luck is. It's just the probability chance of something happening. But it's almost like a 50-50 chance it was going to work or it wasn't. You were going to stay consistent or you weren't. And I believe that with consistency, I believe that if you really want something and you work towards it, you will get there in the
Yeah.
end. It just takes a matter of time. So the luck is just the time being there first, you know?
Yeah.
Because it was going to happen, dude. You didn't have to get 1 million views after that 2,000 view video that day, but you were going to get 1 million view video eventually.
Yeah, I think so too. I think you do create your own luck, and you create through hard work. You can create opportunities for sure. So that's what I mean. Like it's like I got lucky on that day on that video, but I wouldn't have got if I quit at 350 videos. Most people would have said you gave it your best shot. Obviously, I didn't give it my best shot because at 420 videos, I got 1 million views. So like, yeah, people like it. Yeah, if you just stick at it, I do think opportunities come. So yeah, it's like you do get lucky, but you create it. So it's a weird kind of
Yeah, it's.
We need like a new word,
Yeah,
that sums it up.
I'm trying to work there. I spend a lot of time just idealizing weird philosophies and ideologies and trying to really break down what the words mean. But to be honest, it means nothing. You know what I mean? I just waste time thinking about useless shit. But when it comes to, you said you wanted to get 100,000 subs before you would start creating your own team, basically,
Yeah.
you know? Having a management company is awesome too. So why do you use them to outsource emails and things like that?
So they just reached out to me like December last year. I had about 40 something thousand subscribers, and I get this email from a marketing company in New York, and I'm like, okay, who are they? I look them up. I'm like, shit. Some of my favorite content creators, like, I don't know if you ever watch any watch stuff, but there's a guy called Nico Leonard.
Oh yeah, I've seen. Oh, maybe not him.
So he was working with them. There's this travel YouTuber called Simon Wilson who does like, and he works with them. And some of these creators, like I've watched, like they inspired me to start a YouTube channel. I'm like, shit, I'm gonna work with these guys. Like they've done work with Theo Von maybe as well. They're not signed to them, but they've done work with them and stuff like that. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna take them up on their offer.
Yeah.
And they just source sponsor opportunities for me. So I've got like Surfshark and all different sponsors on videos because of them.
Wow.
And so I no longer have to set my own rate. I no longer have to email back and forth, and that can be really annoying and waste of time. So I'm really grateful that they just handle all of that, and they just shoot me a text and say, hey, we've got a sponsor for you. They want it on this date. This is what you need to say in the video. And I just do it, and then they handle going back and forth on the re-edits and the drafts and whatever.
Wow.
So that's been like a real like godsend lifesaver.
And they obviously work by taking a percentage of what the advertisement they're trying to get to.
So they take 20%, which I think is just so worthwhile if I never have to reach out for a sponsor, and they get it all for me, and their rate that they're able to get for me is way higher than what I was charging. So I'll be like, when I was first being offered sponsor slots, I'll be like, 700 USD, because they would all go in US dollars. And I'm like, that's pretty good. I'm getting like 1,000 Australian bucks for a sponsor video. And then they got back to me and they're like, okay, so this is your rate. And I'm like, oh, I was really undercharging myself there.
Wow. Off camera, dude, I'd love to pick your brain about, because it's obviously something I want to get to later, but I won't put it on there.
I try not to talk too much about like income, like the exact numbers, just because then
there's many reasons why.
It's just and it can kind of feel just come across as weird sometimes,
disingenuous.
And like I'm doing it for the money, which I'm so not. So I try not to like give exact numbers, but like it's a really good income even at 70,000 subscribers, and that's what I think people don't realize with YouTube is it pays really well and really fairly. And so people are like, oh, I need 1 million subscribers. Like you can make a living off this at 30, 40,000 subscribers for sure.
Yeah, it's crazy too, because I've always been fixated on the fact that it takes 1,000 subs before you start getting monetized. And my journey's been a slow journey because I do work full time, and like I've enjoyed the authentic route of not trying to gauge. Like I've never, to be honest, I'm kind of, it's a weird bit of pride and ego too. I've never asked for a sub. I've never asked for anything like this too. And it's like, I'm going to, trust me. There's going to be a day where it's like sub. I just ask everyone to do it. But I'm enjoying this little trial era of YouTube, you know, of just seeing what can happen, of just showing up and pressing record and just putting it out there. It's awesome. But I think now the subs have gone down from 1,000 to 500, because when bro, I looked like, I think I was with my mum in here just the other week, and we was just talking, and she's asking me questions about stuff. And I had a look, and it was like, it said halfway. I said, halfway? I've only got 250 subs. I was like, and then it got 500 before you get monetized. I said,
oh wow.
I said, Oh, I think it's time to start taking this.
Was there the
serious.
4,000 watch hour thing as well?
Yeah, it's
Or was it
something-
2,000 now?
I can't remember, but whatever it was, I breached it, so I can't remember what it was.
Oh, right. Because it
Yeah.
said, because when I did it, it was 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours.
And that was only recently. That was only 6 months ago, was that? Yeah.
Yeah. So that was at the end of when I got monetized, end of 2022, November, I think. So yeah, that's actually really good. I think that's super fair because they're running ads on your videos regardless if you have 1,000 subscribers or 5 subscribers. So you should get paid for those ads being run on your videos. So 500 subscribers, I think, is good.
Yeah, I think I had the option to turn off ads though. I'm pretty sure I don't have ads running on my videos.
Oh, really?
If
Okay.
anyone's listening, just call me and tell me. Like,
Yeah.
I don't remember if I do or not. I've never noticed an ad on my own video. Maybe it's because I'm on my own account, but
Yeah.
yeah. To put out all your video based on movies and your reactions to movies, I've noticed that you've orchestrated your Instagram to be more of like, this is what's fun and interactive about YouTube, Instagram, and then YouTube's more of like, this movie
The negative.
is trash.
Yeah, for sure. Because I think it's the two different platforms. So on YouTube, like, it's kind of like the news. Like, no one wants to watch it to see, like, you just going, this thing's really great. It's really good. Really enjoyed it. You should go watch it. You'll enjoy it. Like, they want to know what wasn't good about it, what was this, and it's more entertaining that way too.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, I don't want to come across as someone that's just going to hate on movies all the time when I love movies. And so I'll, like, a lot of the big blockbuster stuff recently has been really crap. So I'm never like lying and saying I hate something. But so I'll just make the YouTube like a show in a way where I have this thing now. It's just called, I call it roast and repair, but now I'm going to call it plot roast, which is where I just roast the shit out of what I would deem a bad movie, but then fix it. So it's not like I'm saying this really sucks, but I'm also offering like my own opinion and trying to help as well. And then the Instagram is going to be like more of a mix of really positive stuff and celebrate stuff because that can also do well on Instagram. So it's just about, understanding the audience, playing the game, and I'll just make that a show that I think the industry can look at and understand what I'm doing. Like, that's entertainment, and I'm also fixing what's a bad movie, and it's just a show.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm doing with the YouTube now. And then the Instagram, is much more like celebratory and good stuff that I enjoy. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. It's awesome to be able to put research into what you want to do. Like, say, for example, I got to research this episode by checking out your social media, and I enjoy it because it's best to help make me have a better conversation.
Yeah.
Right? It's fun. To be able to research what you're doing to make money, especially now because you're doing it as a career, by watching movies and watching films, that's a dope way to build your life, dude.
It's insane. I'm so grateful every day. And like, sometimes I'll be sitting there after like 11 hours straight of editing, and because you're getting these copyright strikes from the studios because you're using clips of the movies. And I'm like, it's just so stressful. And I'm like, no, this isn't stressful. I'm talking about movies, for fuck's sake. Like, I've got friends that are working proper jobs, and like they're not even earning as much money, and they're working way harder. And it's like, I can't be stressed about this.
It's so dope, bro, because recently, and it's only been since I've been sitting down and having conversations with people who I've reached out to online, instead of just the people I've grown up with and all my mates who love every single one of them. I'm grateful for every single one and the episodes I did with them. But now I'm really expanding my horizon to what the world has to offer.
Yeah.
I find that a lot of people that I'm sitting down with have built their life and the money that they get to live off the things that they want to do. You know, like, there's a couple people that pop into mind. Like, I did a podcast with a lass named Jessica who told me about her brand and how she's built with her fitness and her factory and her nutrition, and she loves health and lifestyle. So she just makes content about that and teaches other people about that and trains other people about that. And I'm like, man, your life is so dope.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like, what the internet's brought for people is, it's so cool.
Yeah.
And being able to make money off your interests, and because before, if you wanted to do that, if you liked movies, you wanted to make movies, you had to wait for someone to give you a handout and say, okay, I'll employ you to work on this film set and give you the opportunity to now become a film director. Whereas now it's like, no, I'll just make my own opportunity. I'll just make YouTube videos.
Yeah.
You don't want to give me, that's fine. I'll just make YouTube videos.
Yeah.
And so anyone can do it. And so I think that's also increased the amount of crap that's out there, because people are like, it's so easy. It's like, well, no, it's not easy, but yes, it's accessible, and anyone can do it.
Yeah, and I think that the more work you put into it, obviously the more fruits you're going to get out of your labor that you create anyway. What I'm getting at is you put a lot of research, obviously, into the enjoyment side of things. You know, you get to sit down and enjoy critique as well. I find myself doing that. I went and watched The Quiet Place Day One the
Oh,
other night,
yeah.
and I just couldn't help myself. I had to pull my phone out and start making notes through the movie because I like. Since I've been into cameras and editing and things like that now, I'm noticing the way things are filmed and orchestrated, and I'm noticing the steganography behind the movie and the message that they are subliminally putting into us. I love that part of film now. But if that's what you get to do for fun, how much research do you have to do for your videos that necessarily aren't as fun? Like, do you look up what was this person doing, or what was the story behind that? How much research isn't just watching and enjoying?
Yeah, like a lot of the stuff, because I'll do basically in a week like a news video and a review video. And so for the news video, that's where you've kind of got to look up statistics and stock prices of movie studios and box office numbers, and that stuff's not as fun because like growing up, I didn't care if a movie about how much money the movie made. I just cared about watching the movie and if it was good, and that's what I love. But when it comes to the news videos, yeah, you got to research that kind of stuff, and you've also got to look at what's going on at a corporate level at these studios. Disney's having a bunch of major shifts right now, and so you got to keep up with that stuff. I was watching a 3-hour business expo interview with the CEO of Disney. It was just boring as shit, but I had to watch it.
Yeah.
And so that stuff isn't as fun, but I try to keep it to what I enjoyed.
Sorry. I shouldn't have cut you off there. But I can't help myself. I know a guy who would have loved to watch that CEO video. I did a podcast with a guy named Nathan Young, and I'm going to...
Yeah, I was on his podcast.
Oh, you're on his podcast?
Yeah, me and him go back and forth all the time.
Oh, wow.
He loves Disney too. Yeah, he's a good guy.
As soon as you said that, I just thought of him. I'm going to send him this clip and be like, he would have loved that.
Yeah, he would. Yeah,
that's crazy that you went on his podcast, bro. The world of interviewing and sitting down with people is so small. The more
because I listened to your episode with him actually.
Oh,
so
wow.
Yeah,
dope, awesome, cool.
He's a nice
sorry
guy.
to cut you off, but I was getting at like, so you do put a lot of time into that kind of stuff, yeah.
Yeah, you've got to, and I also think like, if this is a job now, it's treated as a job. There are some people that get paid for YouTube videos and still treat it as a hobby, and it's not. Like, I've got to make sure that what I'm talking about is like I'm on point. I don't say like, oh, this movie lost $180 million at the box office, but it didn't. Like, I've got to make sure I've got the number right there, and then you show proof in the video, and that stuff gets annoying.
Yeah.
But it's still,
How cool is it though that you're almost taking down the same route as your parents? You know, you've almost adopted a genetic form of what they've spent their life doing.
In the modern kind of a new way of doing it, yeah. And then I also don't have to talk about stuff I don't enjoy. Like, before, people in the media and journals have to talk about a wide range of stuff, from things they love, but also things they just have to talk about. I don't have to do that. I'm just movies. Yeah. Because I like movies. Yeah. And like, it's so much fun.
I think you could easily put journalist into your job description, bro.
Yeah, I know. It's a weird one because my whole life I'm like, I don't want to be a journalist. It's a weird, and just like me, like I've always thought in a weird, like so many journalists, I just think of them as like scum. Sometimes, you know, like I'm being honest. Like some journalists, I'm like, you're just scum.
Why? Why would you get that mentality? That's so funny.
I don't know. Just.
I tell you what,
I think it's what you look at what your parents do and you want to do something different. And so I'm just like, I don't want to do journalism. Yeah. But then I look at what I do, I'm like, you're doing journalism.
Yeah. Have you seen Green Street Hooligans?
No.
It's a phenomenal movie. It's almost a film more than a movie, you know. It tells a great story about a journalist who... have you ever heard of it? Do you know what it's about?
No.
Okay, well, it's based in England. It's some part of the UK in general, where a guy who's a journalist ends up joining a league of a underground soccer community gang type street. They're hooligans, you know. They're basically at turf war with other soccer teams, and they're big fans of this mob. They're big fans of this mob. But then after the games, they'd all get together and fight, and there'd be altercations and stuff. And this journalist infiltrates them, and then when he infiltrates them, he's almost like, damn, like, this is my new life, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. But they all say in this mob, like, the only thing worse than cops are journalists, you know? And then he's now like, shit, I'm an actual journalist, you know?
I mean, that is kind of true. Like, there's a lot of... Every country has propaganda. Mm-hmm. And so I think media and journalism's a big part of propaganda. So that is another thing why I've kind of, like, shied away from, like, being, like, a full-on journalist, because... You end up you're pushing some kind of propaganda, and like the angle I take with my YouTube channel as well, with like movies and Hollywood industry, is like I'm so anti propaganda. Like put the story and the truth of the story above all else, and your political opinions is perfectly fine, but like that shouldn't be at the forefront of everything you do.
Yeah,
like, that can be what journalism is.
Yeah, I feel like journalists might be split up into two different categories. You probably have the ones who are trying to tell a story and the ones who are trying to orchestrate a story. You know?
Yeah, definitely.
And how hard would that balance be? You
Definitely.
know? If you're
like,
being told a story, you're now the storyteller
Yeah.
at the end of the day.
Exactly,
Yeah.
for sure. Like that, a big thing my dad would tell me as a kid, and why I've loved stories. He would tell, like, he goes to those countries to tell the stories of what's happening. Doesn't
Yeah.
go there to look at stuff. Like, even my mum would tell me a story of she went to, I won't name drop who this other journalist it is, but she went to the Soccer World Cup in Qatar, and this other journalist was going there, and she was like, oh, you know, there's they don't like women in Qatar and they don't give women freedom. She's like, no. Like, I've lived in Dubai and stuff. I've been there many times. It's perfectly fine. You'll be safe and fine. She got there. She was super nervous. And she goes, oh, I love it here. I feel so safe. Like, there's no crime. No one's like, you know, whistling at me in the street. I don't feel any sort of threat. And then when she came back to Australia, she wrote all these articles about how she felt threatened and stuff. And it's like, and she's like, when you were there, you were saying the complete opposite. You've gone home and just lied. And that can sometimes be what media and journalism sometimes does. And but what's cool now is I think people realize that.
Yeah.
Before, like, the only form of media you had was that. But now, because of YouTube and independent media, you're like, oh no, like, these people are being honest now. So you get the honest media and then some kind of crooked.
It is cool, but it's also taken a big, especially in the last few months, I'm pretty up to date with most trending things. I can't help myself. I'm a bit of a junkie for consumption in that regard. And I feel like a big trending thing now is trust nothing, you know, like it's been that way for months, where it might be a clip. It might be a little interaction that someone has with a microphone and pick someone up on the street. And a lot of the times now they're like, I don't believe that was a real authentic thing because it's a narrative. It's a story. People are, it's been that way since media first came out with print and press, you know, and it is cool that we are now entering a level of like, don't trust everything you see online, and things like COVID, I guess, played a big part in that, and even wars and just the way, you know, say Qatar with the way women are being treated. Like, it's a bit evident now where it's like, ooh, we've been misled, you know?
Yeah, but then on the flip side, what's sad too is because there are some instances where they're like, oh, they lied about this. Now it's like they've lied about everything and don't believe anything. And it's like, well, fuck. Like, now we're in a really bad position when the people like aren't going to believe anything anyone says. And it's like, no, but that one's kind of true. Like, I remember there were all these people during COVID that were saying, and like, I don't know if I believe all of the stuff that went down with COVID either, but some people saying, oh, watch what they're going to do. They're going to bring in like robotic police to monitor you. You're never going to get that freedom back. Now we're back here. So what do you have to say for yourself, you pricks? You know what I mean? Like, and now, like, what are you talking about now? And they've just shut up. They're not talking about it anymore. And so there is like, we're in an age where there is like so much conspiracy theories, and then everyone's like, no, this is the truth. It's like, don't believe him, he's lying, but this is the truth. And so it's a weird.
Bro, even a conspiracy theory is just a story being told from a different lens. You know what I mean? Like, it's the same thing. The same thing. Oh, well, when you said you wanted to wait to get 100,000 subscribers before you started your team, why is that a benchmark that you're choosing to do before you say now hire someone to do things?
Because I just, doing the math and looking at, okay, another 30,000 subscribers would bring in maybe this many extra views. It would also increase my sponsor rate, and that would allow me the income to be able to afford another member on the team. Because at the moment, if I was to bring in an editor, I would then not have enough money to get by. So I've got to make sure, like, okay, so this is okay, and then I can kind of, look into that. And also setting up the business in the right way, because once you've hired someone else, you're paying a salary. The whole business structure and things with tax and stuff is all different. So
major.
It takes time to set that up.
Major. You're definitely stepping into an exciting sphere though. Like, it's a lot more responsibility.
Yeah.
But obviously with great power comes great responsibility.
Yeah.
You know, you're going to be in a good position. So if, how do I say this? What is the reason you would like to hire people in the first place? Is it to improve your videos, or is it to give you more time necessarily?
Both. Okay. Improve and because if I have one person that's just focused on editing and he is an editor, he's going to edit way better than I do. So that would improve it. And then also a thumbnail person would make way better thumbnails than I can make on Canva. And so that will, improve it, and then also free up time to expand the business in other areas. I want to keep growing the Instagram, and just I want to write some stuff and produce some short films, and you don't get that time to do that when you're just doing YouTube and Instagram all yourself.
Yeah.
So it's just all of the above.
Combination of everything good that can come from it, really. What's your routine look like in forms of posting? Do you have a consistent schedule or anything like that?
I wish I could with YouTube. My niche, just with the fact that I've got to wait for a big movie to release or some news to happen for me to make a video on anything. So that's like the most stressful part of my job is I can't have a routine of every Friday a video comes out and I'll be guaranteed this amount of views because I'm in a different type of niche. So it's just whenever. So movies usually drop on a Thursday. So my review will be out on a Thursday night when a big movie drops. But if there's no big movie that week and there's no news that week, I'm like, fuck, what do I make a video about? It's now been 5 days, haven't made a video. It's hard to really get a schedule in. But I just have set routines, and growing the Instagram's brought in a bit more of control in that way because I know every day I can get 4 to 6 posts done.
Yeah.
So that gives me like this sort of morning routine thing of getting up at 7, going to the gym, doing 5 or 6 Instagram reels. Okay, so that's my morning work done. After that, depends on what the hell else is going on.
Yeah.
That's the only downside of what I do.
Yeah. Well, that's cool though. You still have got chaos within the order within the chaos.
Yeah, try to.
Two things that I'm very reflective on and aware of the fact that life has Taoism spread out across everything. You can't have yin without yang.
Yeah.
But as Jordan Peterson, which I quote a lot, said in his book, you have to have a mixture of chaos and order.
Yeah.
It's a set routine for your entire life. And like...
There's no adventure.
Yeah, boring.
Yeah.
You know, that's the easiest word I've got. No adventure is a great way to say it too. But you can't just have chaos either because now you've got no ground and you've got no stability and no comfort. But to be able to incorporate both is a great way to live your life, I believe. It also leaves flexibility at the end of the day, you know, like 2 movies might come out. You know?
Exactly. Like I've definitely had weeks where there's been opportunities for 3-4 videos. Before I was doing a video a day, I was just finding news every day to talk about because I was trying to grow the channel.
Yeah.
But now it's like the other week I had one where a TV show of an episode came out that was massive. I made that review. The next day there was this big news that was happening. I made that review. 2 days later there was a news thing that happened. I made a video on that. So it's just like 1 week can have 4 videos, 1 week can have 1. You never know.
That's cool. I find that I listened to a guy. Have you ever heard of Alex Hormozi?
Yes,
He's phenomenal. I've been on a mad trajectory lately of just consuming anything and everything I can of him.
He's great.
He's great. He breaks down things to a very simple level, and he talks about sales as a good example, but I'm going to relate it back to YouTube in a minute. But he says that in the beginning, it's just not consistency. What's the word I'm looking for? I wish I had the... Quality and quantity. He says quantity. That's all you want to do. You want to just feed the market with as much as possible. If you could get 100,000 no's in a few years, then that's amazing.
Yeah.
Once you start to build yourself a bit of a platform in any field, doesn't have to be YouTube, it can be business, it can be anything, then you can start to narrow down your windows and to have more quality content into the things that are shining out the most. Whether it be to make money off these one particular set of customers or this one product sells more than the other products you're selling. Really put that into your main focus, like the videos you're doing now compared to the videos you were doing before.
Yeah.
I find that my favorite YouTube channel, which was Nelk, they were weekly before, and even big YouTubers, they used to be daily vloggers.
Yeah.
And now Nelk hasn't put up a video, which they were doing monthly. It's been almost a month and a half, and I know the video they're about to put out is about to do magic. Like, the Instagram reel got 1.5 million views in 30 minutes. You know? Like everyone's waiting for it because they know they've trusted the level of consistency it's taken to get to the quality content they have now.
Definitely, yeah.
And I feel like now with the videos you're creating, first I'll get to this in a minute, but to have a movie come out every single week, that's not something I was even familiar with. You know, like every Thursday, I thought a movie only really came out once every couple months because that's how often
Well,
I
like
pay
a big
attention.
one will be once every couple months, but basically every week you can count on one new movie being out on a Thursday.
Okay.
Basically, I won't review every movie because I've got to. Like, I wish I had a big enough channel where whatever video I made would get a couple 100,000 views. But so for me, I've got to review the big stuff. But basically. And then when it comes to TV shows, usually it's a Wednesday release for each episode.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the structure of it.
And when you say a big movie would come out roughly once a week on a Thursday, is that a cinematic? Is that Netflix? Is that like...
Usually in cinemas, yeah. So
Okay,
cinemas will
wow.
usually get a new film in probably on a Thursday, yeah.
Can't believe I never even knew that. I thought a movie came out every few months.
Yeah, because there's only, 6 or 7 big ones in a year, which is a lot nowadays. Before there was only like 2 or 3.
Yeah.
But that's like the stuff everyone hears about. But if you're really tapped into watching like every movie, every Thursday there'll be something. It might not be good, but there'll be something.
Yeah. Okay. So do you find yourself going to the movies a lot to watch these?
Yeah. I've
obviously.
always gone to the movies a lot though. At least once a week, at least.
Yeah.
And like now that it's my job and just to understand movies on a bigger level, I try to watch as many movies as possible, as many shows as possible. So yeah, probably most Thursday mornings I'll be at the cinema because nighttime it just gets to too many people and they're talking. I like watching a movie and just being like locked in.
Yeah.
So the 10 a.m. session on a Thursday morning, no one's ever there, and I'm the one there. It's the first session they always do.
That's sick. Okay, so when you go watch these movies, do you have a plan? Do you go in with a pen and paper? Do you go in with your phone? Do you make notes, or do you just 100% focus?
Super strict on just watching it because the director and the actors and stuff, they didn't make a movie for someone to sit there with a notebook and a pen. They made a movie for you to sit there with popcorn in your hand and watch it and be entertained. And whatever I get from that at the end of the movie, that's what I'll talk about.
Yeah,
because that's
okay.
what they wanted to make it for.
Yeah, okay, nice. Now that you've got more experience in doing so, do you find that when you watch a movie, is there any consideration to the people who are going to be judging the movie, like yourself? Like, I'm not saying you're judging the movie, but is it something that you reckon film directors are considering, or is it just trying to just tell a story and just put it out, hope people enjoy it?
Sometimes you can notice a shift. I wouldn't say when you're watching the movie, but in the industry, it shifts to try and match the people because it's show business. They got to make money, so they want to put out stuff. So why we're getting so many movies recently that have been a bit kind of crap and whatever, and it's because they've been so focused on like messages over a good story. So like I can agree with your message 100%, but if that's the whole point of your movie and you haven't the cinematography is not good, the CGI is not good, the performances aren't good, the writing's basic, or you're just doing a remake of a movie you did before, like it's a crap movie. And so what I'm noticing now is they're shifting it back to putting the overall entertainment and the quality of the camera work and stuff over the messages because they now know that's what the people want. But back in 2016, you had Harvey Weinstein go to jail, and it became all about different political things were on the rise, and it became about messages, and people were liking movies with messages. So that's what they did. But it takes 2-3 years to make a movie. So now they're coming out, they've missed that boat, but they're part of that kind of club still. So you notice a change in the industry due to what people are saying, and now videos on YouTube are getting millions of views for calling out this crap. So they're changing it in the industry. I've never really noticed it in a movie exactly, but you can just, more so in the industry.
So you can read between the lines of like...
exactly.
Yeah,
and
okay.
you end up, and the more you understand films, the more you can understand when a director's trying to manipulate you in a way, which is good. Like I like that. Like there's a good example of that is Stanley Kubrick is one of the greatest directors of all time, made movies like The Shining, but there's a scene in, what's the movie? I forget. Oh no, it wasn't Stanley Kubrick, it was Roman Polanski, this other director, had a scene in the movie where you have this camera positioned in this weird angle and you know there's something behind the door. And so even though you doing this with your head doesn't change the way the camera moves, you do that to try and peer around the door. That's a good audience manipulation tactic for a good movie. But sometimes they can try and do it to manipulate you to buying into specific narratives. That's not the job of a filmmaker. That's not the job of movies.
Yeah.
It's your job to tell the truth, not to push narratives. So that's something that kind of happens a bit more nowadays that I don't really like.
Yeah, okay. And what I'm getting at too is obviously you have a better understanding of the entire way a movie is being orchestrated after having countless and countless amounts of hours being spent consuming movies now. Once a week is fucking insane.
It's not just once a week. That's when I'm at the cinema, at least once a week.
Yeah.
If I like a movie, I'll watch it 3 or 4 times in the cinema.
Wow.
Like I saw Mission Impossible 4 when I was 10 or 11 years old, 6 times in the movies. I watched Dune Part 2 3 times in the movies. I've seen Inside Out 2 twice in the cinema. No, 3 times in the cinema. I went to the premiere. I got invited to the premiere. I went and watched it on my own in the cinema. Then I went with with my girlfriend and watching the movie. So if I like a movie, I'll watch it over and over again.
Wow.
And then I'll watch movies on Netflix each night at home and things like that.
Yeah, nice. Okay. What's your favorite movies to consume in this entire sphere of anything? It doesn't have to be movies, it could be shows, it could be ideologies, it could be genres, it could be storytelling or
It changes like just on my mood. So my favorite movie of all time is Godfather Part 2. That I think is like the perfect movie, the perfect story. You can't fault it in any way. But my favorite like type of film or genre changes on my mood. So one day I'll be like, I really want to watch a romance movie. One day I'll be like, I want to watch an action movie, put on John Wick, put on, Jason Bourne. And then other days I want to watch a mystery movie. So yeah, it changes. Yeah, I can't really answer that question. I just love so many, and it just depends on my mood. And it's weird because I love movies. I love planes because when I'm on a plane, I feel like I'm in a private cinema, and I'll sit there the whole flight and just watch like 5 movies back to back.
Yeah,
it's great.
I do love that fact too. To be honest, like I hate flying when there's no screen. If there's a screen, dude, I'm good. I'm happy to fly to whatever country. You know? I'm easy like that. I believe I did see a post of you being invited to Inside Out too. Like, how, like, to be honest, that's an awesome thing to be a part of, you know? Is that the first time something like that has happened where you've been invited to a thing like that?
Yeah. So I got, so because my mum's journalist and media, she's able to get like contacts and stuff. So I was able to kind of weasel my way into a contact to get an invite to the thing, and that was a really cool experience. That was like it wasn't a red carpet, it was a purple carpet because to fit the color scheme of the movie. But you walk down that, you get your photos taken, and they had like a dinner provided. So that was my first time going to a thing like that. That was really cool.
That is cool.
And they do that for so many different movies, and I'd love to attend more. And the goal with the Instagram is to grow that so I can do some interviews with people on the carpet as well, and that would be a good road to go down as well. So hopefully in the future more of that, because it was really cool experience. However, the one problem is you do get a certain sect of people don't give a shit about movies. They're just fame-hungry whores that come off things like Love Island Australia, and they were at that thing, and it's like you see them and they're like, oh, go away. And some of them, they show up, they do the red carpet, they get some champagne and like a sandwich and leave. Oh. They don't even watch the movie. It's like, bro, don't come here if you're not going to watch it.
Damn, that's awesome.
And then you can check their Instagram after, and they'll be like, had an amazing time at the Inside Out premiere.
The premiere, not the movie.
I've got to recommend this film. You walked away.
I recommend the premiere. It was awesome. Don't know about the movie.
Thank you, Disney.
That's cool. That's an awesome niche to be able to be a part of, to be invited to things like that. And just with the way your trajectory's been going, I can see nothing more than that happening more and more on a consistent basis.
Hope so.
I'm also kind of getting an understanding now that you've almost got a limited potential when it comes to being here in Australia, and you're probably going to breach that.
Definitely.
And have to go abroad, you know?
Definitely. The only reason I'm still in Australia is my girlfriend's job. And that's kind of moving more online as well. So yeah, we're going to move. The move is a weird one because more things happen in America. I want to grow this Instagram first and get that to a big place before I'm in the States and I can do more cool things. But so like moving to New York or LA is a big thing, but also places like Dubai have zero tax. It's a good place to start up a business, especially when you're only just getting started. To pay no tax, you can just bank some money and be safe, because content creation isn't the safest industry. So yeah, we definitely will move to be closer to things that are happening. I do actually like Dubai because it's about 5.5, 6 hours to England, and then it's a 12-hour flight to New York, which is all right. Whereas from Australia, you're flying, 16 hours to Dallas to then fly 6 hours to New York, or you're flying 15 hours to Dubai to then get on a connection flight 6 hours to England or wherever. So when things are happening overseas, it's better to be in a more central location. And also more things are starting to happen in Dubai now. Films are filming there, premieres are happening there. So that looks like that might be the place. But yeah, I've got to move. With this niche that I'm in, it just has to happen.
Of course. And to be honest, dude, you could continue to do what you're doing now and get growth, reviewing movies. But it's that in real life thing now that you're kind of going to miss out on.
Yes, you got like networking's a big deal. Like I think, do you watch like the Chicken Shop Date
That's I think
the
that
British
that
chick,
girl that does it.
yeah, with like rappers
she
and
did
different
Central
people.
C's one. That's the one I watched.
Yeah. So I think she's done an amazing. Like she's so smart. Her in-person networking. So she'll only post one episode of Chicken Shop Date a month.
Wow.
Which will do like 500,000 or 1 million views. And then she'll just be like really big on Instagram, but she's at every event. She's talking to people, and that's a thing you need to build up, and that gives you more opportunities. So you just got to be where things are happening for sure.
Of course. If I've learned anything, dude, it's not what you know. Even in a niche like a trade, like it's who you know.
Yeah, definitely.
Like it's people can offer you jobs inside the careers you're in. People can be there to give you wisdom inside the experience they've gained. Like what you know is useless because you can only learn what you know very, very day by day slowly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's putting yourself in the room to be
Yeah.
with the people to get you the exposure.
And it's weird because like I don't like to kind of suck up to people and play a sort of game in like trying to meet people and only be friends with people for something to gain myself. But networking's a part of anything, and that's like that's probably the thing I hate the most that you have to do.
Yeah.
I fucking hate it. I just don't want to, because I just want to be genuine, and I want to like, if I talk to someone, I want to be friends with them. I don't want to, be only friends with someone. So it's a weird balance of being genuine while also knowing you need to network your way around. Yeah, it's weird.
It's almost like for me personally, I don't hate the fact that you have to do it. I hate the mindset that you might create by doing the thing that you love doing anyway.
Yeah.
For me personally, networking is such a wide branch, a variety of different thoughts I could go down. Where it's like, say, hitting up you, for example.
Yeah.
Like, I genuinely found the interest in you and what you were doing in the content. It just happened to be beneficial as well.
That's the best way for it to work. Like when, meeting you and going on your podcast and helping each other out in that way, but also genuine like for each other. Like, like it's not fake. And the same thing happened with Nathan Business Bubble. It's like he reached out to me because he saw my Instagram, and it was just meant to be like a business kind of exchange, but we ended up being friends, and that's the best way for it to work.
Yeah.
So hopefully that can happen more in the industry as well. But the problem is Hollywood is a bit of a fake industry.
But to be honest, dude, I think that every industry like that. I think that Hollywood's painted with this image like it's a fake thing because it's so massive and there's so many different voices and opinions that even balance that we're talking about with everything that's chaos and order is just like so much more heightened for everyone to enjoy. I feel like if you put that same philosophy into every single job there is across this planet, it is all looked at like fake. Like real estate, I know so many people in real estate, and it's a fake industry, but that's just so much more heightened because there's so much more money being exchanged and so many more photos being taken. But I'm in construction. Construction is fake. Like people are friends with each other, but also if you get an opportunity to step on someone, people do. Like it's just the way the world is. It's not necessarily just Hollywood.
Yeah, exactly. I think that it's a weird example, but someone who I think networks the perfect way and handles their career and business the perfect way is 50 Cent.
Yeah.
I think he's just so good because he's super genuine and honest. He doesn't bite his tongue. If he doesn't, he just tells you to fuck off. If he doesn't like what you're doing, he tells you to fuck off.
Yeah.
But he networks well, and he does that's like the way you want to navigate. Like, because I'm a bit similar as well. If I don't kind of vibe with someone, like I'm more straight up and I'll just cut them off. Yeah. I'm not going to tell someone fuck off or whatever, but I just won't talk to them again. And so I'm like that too. And I think learning from people like him and the way they handle their career is really, really good. Quentin Tarantino is really similar. Yeah. Like if he doesn't like what someone's doing, he tells you to fuck off. There's a story of him having a massive actor. It's rumored that it was Tom Hardy, but no one really knows. He had a massive actor on set for a movie, and they were just doing some stuff that he didn't enjoy and trying to make the movie more of their own. And he just said, get the fuck off my set. I'm not working with you.
Wow.
And so that's the way I would like to work as well. When you like someone, just being all there for them and like super giving and caring. And if someone doesn't work with you, just cutting them off.
Yeah, I hope it wasn't Tom Hardy. I love Tom Hardy.
I love Tom Hardy too. I think he's a fucking great actor. Everything he does. There's a rumor it's Tom Hardy. I personally don't think it's Tom Hardy. But if you go on the internet, there's a massive rumor that it was him. And I think it was to do with, I don't know what movie it was to do with. But yeah, and then there's another rumor that it was Will Smith to do with Django and that he was meant to be Django Unchained. But,
I've heard that rumor actually.
But I don't know.
Wow. Do you find that inside being like, do you find that in your field now, you are taking away what you once enjoyed about movies? If you're so analytical and critical on movies and you have to make content about, especially what's bad, because that's almost a weekly YouTube thing. No,
Yeah.
not weekly, but are you doing it weekly on YouTube? Like,
Yeah. So
Because-
it's on average, I'd say like every 4 days there's a video.
Yeah, okay. So are you taking away what you once enjoyed, and that was the entertainment and the fact that you could relate to characters and you found the comfort growing up, having the 4 shows you'd watch every day before school, and they were your friends. Like, that's
Yeah.
a big part of your life. Now that you're critiquing movies, and I understand it because movies have fallen off with the way everything's happened since 2016 onwards, is it removing part of the enjoyment?
Not at all, because I just, like, if I like something, I'll talk about it on Instagram. If there's a big release that's just dumb, I'll talk about that on YouTube. I'm going to talk about them regardless. Like, my whole life, I've gone to movies and I've loved movies. And if I love it, I'll just talk about it forever. If I hate it, I'll talk about it. I've just always talked about movies. So I'm not saying anything I wouldn't say just with my friends or my brother or anything. So not really. It's just like, just because I guess I release it on YouTube doesn't mean that's all I talk about or watch or care about. So that's just a business thing, and that's what's kind of the content that's made.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've made a conscious effort to make sure that I keep some sort of grounding and watch stuff that I go into it knowing I'm not going to talk about this online at all. So like, I watched Guy Ritchie made his show The Gentleman.
Yeah.
And I love that show. And
Is that a brand new show? I heard that.
that
really
was
good.
like March.
Yeah.
And I went into it knowing whether I like it or hate it, I'm not going to talk about this online. I just want to watch this for me. And so I just
Wow.
watched it every night. And there's a great show called The West Wing that was early 2000s, and I've been binging that lately each night before going to sleep, and that's an old show that I just watch for my own enjoyment. So I make sure to keep a grounding.
Yeah.
So, and I think also I'm trying to do it more now, frame the YouTubers. That's not like, that's a show where I take bad movies and roast it comedically and then fix it.
Yeah.
That's what I want to do. And then I take bad news as well and talk about how dumb it is and then try and fix the situation. And then the Instagram is more of like the reviews and the not fixing stuff or taking stuff that's bad and framing that in the right way. I'm still working on that. I don't think I've framed it perfectly just yet. But trying to get that framing right so I can be taken a bit more seriously. Because there are some quote unquote like grifters out there in my niche that everything they do is negative. They don't have any Instagram. They don't say anything positive. There's this one channel, every 2 days he's talking about the latest freaking problem and he's pissed off. It's like, bro, why are you doing this to yourself? You're pulling out hair. Like, it's so I make sure I'm not exactly in that boat. And every now and then I'll do like a positive. So like Dune Part 2, I like praise that so much on my YouTube channel. I made a video saying like why Dune is so much better than Star Wars and what Star Wars can learn from Dune, and things like that. So I try to keep a balance and stay grounded.
I think I'm going to have to watch Dune. I haven't even started that movie
It's
series
amazing,
yet.
man. So Dune Part 1, people were like, oh, it's a bit lackluster, but that was all to set up what happens in Dune Part 2, which is just freaking phenomenal.
Wow. Did it get the height in which you think it should have reached, Dune? Because if I haven't seen it, I don't even know many people who have. I only know a couple people who have said it's good.
Yeah, Part 2 Part 1 came out during COVID, so it didn't make much money. Made a little bit of profit at the box office. Part 2 made a bunch of money and was super successful. And yeah, I think it definitely got the praise it deserved. Yeah.
Okay. And that was a movie with Zendaya.
Yeah. So Timothy Chalamet, Zendaya, who was Jason Momoa was in the first one. Amazing cast.
Yeah, cool. Awesome. How much time do you spend now doing the video editing and content creation side of things? Like, how much of that your day is consumed by that all week?
Oh, so much, because say I've got to monitor all the news that's happening, and so that's like not really, I can't work that into a schedule. I've just got to keep up to date. On a day that I make a YouTube video, that's a pretty tough day where I get up a little earlier. I get up at 6 and get some exercise in and do the Instagram stuff. And then by 9, I'm doing the movie stuff, whether that I've got to go to the cinema and watch it, or just read about it and then script it, record it, edit the audio, then edit the visuals. It's like 10 hours, probably 10, 11 hour day.
Yeah.
On the YouTube plus 2 hours on Instagram. So that's a long day. But then the days where I'm not making a YouTube video, like a day like today, I was just up, I did some Instagram stuff, I had breakfast, and that was that.
Yeah.
And so some days can be like really chill, not much work at all. And I think it's a big thing to know, to give yourself, especially in a creative job, some time where you don't have anything scheduled that day. And some days we have an afternoon free, because it can be addictive to make sure I'm busy, I'm productive, look at what I've done today. But if you look back on that day, okay, what did you actually do that moved the needle forward? It's like, I know for me, a big YouTube video, whether that's once a week, twice a week, 3, whenever it needs to happen, happens. 5 Instagram reels a day, that moves my business forward. Yeah. That's it. Anything on top of that is just extra shit that I might need to do that day, but also I might just be making up so I feel like I'm more productive. And that's something I need to work on, because I'm big into productivity. And so sometimes I'll sit there and be like, I've just spent the last 2 hours working on, okay, structure, rebranding, content planning for the next month. I didn't need to. I didn't need to do any of that. I wrote that down yesterday. And so, and that free time kind of lets your brain clear and allows you to be more concise in your videos and speak better. Also, I want to make some short films, so I need time to write that and time to think about that. So, yeah, it's a hard one. It's a really hard balance for me.
Yeah,
is that like the productivity mixed with creative free time. But so the YouTube day is huge, but every other day is just kind of morning. Past 11 a.m., I'm pretty free on those other days. Yeah.
Nice. That's awesome that you're able to break down a day by day kind of week. For me, when it comes to putting out content or anything like that, it's almost like a weekly build up that I have to slowly chip it away at each week. But to be honest, I don't. Most days I procrastinate. I leave myself a bit of time. I'm trying to do the same thing you're doing and leaving myself more time.
And also being like more kind to yourself, because you can be like, man, I wasted all that time today. But okay, you wasted all that time today. Wasting more time about thinking about how you wasted time is just another waste of time. So just like, okay, that needed to happen. And I'm coming out of a period of like immense burnout as well. That can happen, especially when you're like super into it. And I'm still slowly recovering, because when I was doing a YouTube video a day up until the start of this year, like that was so, I didn't understand how much that taxed my body. And so I was just so fatigued for so long. And so it's just, I've learned to be better with my productivity, is understanding what's actually productive and what's not. And so, be kind with yourself. And especially you, man, I don't know how you edit a podcast and work a job. Construction, which is a tiring fucking job, man. Like that's not, you're not sitting in a little cubicle all day, piss potting around and going to the water cooler. Like you're actually working and then you're coming home and editing. Like, fuck.
It has been a interesting road to learn to navigate, you know, like it's definitely been something to teach me a lot about my capabilities. It's also helped create a version of myself that I might not necessarily like at the same time. It's something that you've recently worked out, which to leave yourself free time for creative thoughts, for just downtime, you know, to stop being so fatigued. Like it's something that I'm now aware of, because I only just in the last few months got to a point of where it's like, man, I wasted an hour doing this. I wasted 2 hours doing that. And it's like, I didn't even necessarily waste. I might have enjoyed myself. And to be honest, even in moments of enjoyment, like I found myself being like, okay, I don't have much time to be able to spend with loved ones, with friends, like with training, with content. Because like I should be doing this. I should be doing that. There's an end time to everything I've got to do.
Yeah. And something I heard once on a podcast was like, okay, if you don't get that stuff done today and you give yourself a day off, will anything in the world be ruined? Will anything actually go wrong? No. Like, everything will be fine. So if you need to take a day off, take a day off. Don't get lazy and be like, I'm taking a day off today, I'll just relax. Like, no, stay, working. But yeah, it's a big thing that I've had to overcome, because I had this schedule. My manager even said to me, he was like, I'm so glad you're uploading less, man. I was so worried about you. I was like, why? And I had this schedule of, I was up at 5 a.m., I was running, and then I was coming back in. I was doing Instagram stuff. Then I was looking at scanning the news for any YouTube video. I was making a YouTube video that day. I was finishing that. Then I was watching a movie, because I had to watch a movie a day to understand movies better. And then after watching a movie, it was now like 11 p.m. at night. I was going to sleep. I was getting 5 hours of sleep a night, and then doing that every day. And it was just ridiculous. Weekends, it was like 7 days. I was like, what am I doing? And so I'm so glad I'm done with that now. just learning how to use productivity better.
And you know what's crazy too is I've had a very similar mentality where I would schedule everything in. It's cool for me to make myself a to-do list for the day, and even like the problem was I get addicted to that and I start to add more things to the day. And to be honest, you start writing down dumb shit. Brush your teeth, fucking breakfast. You know what I mean? Like, you don't need that in your to-do list.
Nah, and you also end up being unrealistic with how long it takes to do things.
Oh man,
you'd be like, okay, so I'll get this done by 10:30, and then you're like, 10:36, I'm still only halfway done. What am I doing now? My day's ruined. It fucks it up. So for me, I put it into like 3, because I like to do lists as well, and I do it before going to bed. Just kind of like, okay, what are 3 things I can do tomorrow that just move the needle forward? And that can be work, health, and family as well. So like today for me, I was like, okay, do this podcast, Instagram, and I'm going to go help my girlfriend pack because she goes to America for work soon.
Wow.
And so that's my things today. And like, that's going to take all day, and that's fine. And that's a good way of like keeping balance. And because I'm also not someone that's like work-life balance. I'm kind of against that whole narrative as well, because I do think like people are being quite lazy today. But also sometimes you can go too far the other way and you're completely burnt out. You don't even realize it.
It's weird because I'm also very grateful for the mentality that I've created. So I think that it's been a beneficial tool in your life too. It's that intense schedule of trying to get a movie a day to better understand films. I want to get a YouTube video out a week. Like, you can't deny that they are what has helped you get to the position you're in today.
Exactly.
It's just once you get to a certain checkpoint and a marker, then you've got to look back and be like, okay, what has been beneficial out of this and what hasn't? You know?
And also, you can spend so much time stressing about making sure you're productive that takes up a few hours of the day, where if you just did it, you would actually have more free time and you'd be less stressed. So in a way, like, stress is kind of like this choice that you sort of make. And so, definitely I'm such a big advocate of hard work, but understanding where you might be just pushing it too ridiculous. And I think some people online have just lie, and they've made people, like, I've bought into certain narratives like, oh, this person was doing this every day, I'm going to do that. And it's like, but they weren't. Like, that was just a fucking lie. So just understanding that, like, you're not a machine. And also, I think when it comes to podcasting and stuff, that's like creative knowledge work. That's completely different to working in a factory. Because when you work in a factory, if you do the same thing over and over again, just attach this to attach that to that, then you can monitor how much you did that day. And just working harder will get more done. But if you're doing creative work, you need time to think. You need time to let ideas happen. So it's a different thing. And there's a great book by this guy Cal Newport who wrote what's it called, Slow Productivity. And he studied great, like, creative minds and thinkers and knowledge workers that we all respect today. People like Ernest Hemingway, people like Winston Churchill even, and looked at their daily schedule, and they didn't have daily routines. They didn't have productivity checklists. When they had an idea, they wrote it down and they did it. And they would, if they were a writer, they would read a lot to understand, but like, if they didn't feel like doing it, they wouldn't force themselves, because that's not how it works in a creative, entrepreneurial kind of thing. And so, it's been a big lesson for me, and also balancing that with working hard. Because what can separate you from the pack is working harder. So it's weird.
It's almost like when you're creative, you have to, when the idea sparks, just execute. You know, there's no time for, all right, let's make a creative plan about how I want to be able to do this and structure this in. Have an idea, execute the plan. You know, you can incorporate things into routines and be like, okay, I want to be able to do this once a week, but that's also an execution of an idea. You know, I think that for me personally, I try and pack way too much things in because I enjoy that feeling of pride of like, I got this done, I got that done, I did that. Then it's like,
and then you look at the end of the day with all the ticks next to it and you're like, I did that. But actually, that didn't, like, what did that even accomplish? Like, I've been like, okay, gratitude journaling. It's like, what did that do?
Laundry. I'm like, laundry should have been done anyway.
And so, I think it was a big game changer for me to just look at what actually moves the needle forward. That's what you do. Anything else is just extra stuff. And if you, like, I would get stuff done by 1 p.m. or I'd have all the stuff I wanted to get done that week done by Wednesday. And then I just make up shit to do on Thursday and Friday just so I felt busy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, I'm addicted to feeling busy. I don't need to. If I have nothing to do, that means I have nothing to do. Play the fucking PlayStation. Relax.
Yeah.
Like,
You're right. You're so right.
you
dude.
earn it sometimes.
I've got this bit in my head that I think of whenever I think of it, and I think of myself one day finishing my to-do list because I've never been able to I haven't been able to finish my to-do list in 6 months because there's more and more shit to do.
Yeah.
And then I have this reminds me to be grounded because at the end of the day, I imagine tick, 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 tick. And then at the bottom, I write down finish to-do list and I tick. You know what I mean? And then it's like tick, finish to-do list, tick. Like, when does it end? You know what I mean? It never ends, dude. It never ends. It's crazy. I want to get back to as well. So you're saying that 100,000 subs is a good benchmark before you start taking more progression, leaps and bounds, moving overseas to continue to grow business. And then places like LA and New York and things like that where you have the networking obviously on your mind as well.
Yeah.
What are some more recent things and close to, you know, the end of this year or foreseeable future that you'd like to start doing, or you just mostly want to consistently do what you've been doing for a bit more?
I want to do some street interview stuff on Instagram. I'm going to be doing that over in France during the Olympics because I'll be there for the whole Olympics. I'm going to do some stuff on like sport films and ask people like, what's your favorite sport movie? What's your favorite movie to do with this or whatever? And that should be fun. That I want to just diversify the content a bit on Instagram, grow that media platform this year. And the goal for Instagram, I set goals really high. So even if I fail, it's still a lot better than the goal is 100,000 Instagram followers by the end of the year.
Yep.
And so to have 100,000 YouTube, 100,000 Instagram.
Wow.
And that's lofty because I only have 4,500, but I only had 3,900 like 2 weeks ago. So I'm on 4.5 now, and 5 reels a day really gets that going. So that's this year's goal, and then get to and then the goal is to start getting invited to more movie premieres for next year. So like in December, start getting some inbound emails through the Instagram to go do that stuff. And that's just the goals this year.
Yeah, damn, there's some great goals too, dude. And to be honest, 100,000 subs, I've noticed, I know what the beast of Instagram is. Like when you really start feeding that algorithm, man, 100,000 subs, like it's such a good benchmark to get your mind.
Yeah.
Like, we are running out of time. 6 months is awesome, but like that's a goal that like most people can't even dream of doing, but it's your consistency that has shown you anything can happen for the power of the internet.
Honestly, like for a while, I thought 1,000 subscribers was getting impossible because I was like, I've done hundreds of videos. Like I'm nowhere near 1,000. Like I must be doing something wrong. It's just not for me. But it'll just happen. And like even now, I think of the 100K subscriber plaque that you get. And I think like, oh, that will I ever really get there? But I'm like, yeah, you will. Like, you're at 70,000. You'll get there eventually.
70,000 for me, dude, is so.
It's insane. Yeah. I still remember a comment I got on like my 5th or 6th video that was, oh man, I watched your video, really loved it, clicked your channel, expected to see 200,000 subscribers. I only saw 4 subscribers. And I'm like, it's crazy like to think that I remember hitting 10 subscribers go double digits.
Yeah.
We're at double digits.
That feeling, dude. That was a good feeling.
Yeah. Or like 100 subscribers, like this is sick.
Yeah.
And then I hit 10,000 subscribers. I nearly cried that morning. I was like, this goal is like, I made this goal. This is insane. So yeah, it always seems unachievable until you achieve it.
Yeah. Do you find yourself, and this might come from a point of misunderstanding because I'm not sure, do you get more and more numb to that feeling of what subscribers and viewers are? Because in the beginning for me, I was like fixated when I got to the first 100. Like to be honest, for me in my life, that was a big moment. Like, one of my mates actually 3D printed me a plaque. Like it's
that's
some of the
sick.
greatest fucking gifts.
That's sick.
It was so beautiful for him to give me that. Thank you, Zach, for that. And then one day I just had 200 and something, and I didn't even, because I didn't care anymore. You know what I mean? Like I got 100. I got a bit of love from my mate, and that was amazing too. And a couple shout outs from the boys as well.
Definitely can happen. I try so hard for it not to, because it's so easy to look at the subscriber count and see it as a number. But those are people.
Yeah.
So like I could fill ANZ Stadium with my subscribers. Like that's a lot of fucking people.
That's insane.
Be grateful for those people. You know, like so anytime just one new subscriber, I don't even see it, right? I don't see it going up by one. I see it going up by multiple subscribers every time I check it again. And I just need to remember those are people that actively chose to subscribe to my channel. Like, be grateful for that. And I've like mentored a few people that have reached out to me trying to grow a YouTube channel, and they'll be like, oh, I'm only at 100 subscribers. I'm like, no, celebrate, like that's sick. And try and keep that mindset and understand that a YouTube channel is literally nothing if not for the people that watch.
Yeah.
It's like, I only get paid because people choose to watch my video. Like, you can become and you don't mean to be, and you're a good guy, but you can become an absolute prick by just seeing them as numbers on a screen. Yeah. So I try not to, because that could be super easy. And I have done it, and I've had to pull myself back, and I'd be like, nah. Like, if I have a video that bombs, I'm like, fuck, man, only 30,000 views. Like, that sucks. And I'm like, fuck, 30,000 people watch my video. Like, that's a lot of fucking people.
That's so cool, Mark.
Like, I'll be like, fuck, only 1,000 views in the first hour. Like, that is shit. And I'm like, nah, don't think like that
crazy.
Ever, man.
That's so crazy.
I have to pull myself back.
Yeah, that's
and I've heard YouTubers on podcasts be like, oh, it sucks, my video bombed, dude. It's only on 300,000 views. I'm like, if I had 300,000 views, I would be like, this video is a beast of a video. So it's perspective.
I heard this quote recently. I've been reading this book, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. It's I don't know, it's got a bit of stigma around it by being a shit book, but I'm actually enjoying it. It's actually been a good read.
It's on the shelf at my house. I've never read it.
Yeah, it's good. I'm only a few chapters into it, but it's been good. And one of the things, I think I got it from this book because I read it recently, and it said, the goal of life is not to take away problems, it's to find bigger and better problems. That's what I'm hearing when I'm hearing what you're saying now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's, oh man, I've only got 1,000, I've only got 30,000 views. Like, to me, that's such an awesome problem to have. That's so cool.
I know. Yeah, it's fucking mental. That's just how the world works. Like, what used to make you happy will now make you sad. Yeah. It's like, are you kidding? I used to, when I'm just in 2022, if I'd wake up in the morning and see more than 100 views, I would be happy. Like, this video's a success. Yeah. Like, I would reach 100 views now in 3 minutes. Yeah. So, like, it's like, you need to make sure you're still grateful for that, because it's too easy to, and also it's too easy to look at videos and go and calculate how many views equals how many dollars. Yeah. It's like, don't think of it that way. Like, that's not the way to go down. That's
sick. One more question I want to ask on this topic of YouTube as well was, if you're planning to start hiring a videographer, editor, and a what do you call it?
Thumbnail copywriter.
What will that free time allow you to do? Why is that so incisive? I know that it will help improve the content, but what do you plan to do with that time?
One, just having mental space to then think of bigger vision, because this right now is a media company. So the more it grows, the more I need to be a vision person. Like, every company, the head of the company he's the guy with the vision. And you need time to think of that. And so I want to make some short films, get that into a short film festival. That needs time to write them and direct them. So I'll need free time where I can't do that right now with what I'm doing. And then through those short films, branch out into other things, make enough money to then executive produce some TV shows and films, because you just send some money and you're executive producer, and that grows it into a production company. And so that's got to take some free time for me to think bigger and take more meetings and network more. So that's basically the only reason. It's just freeing up time for me to actually think more clearly, because when you're so busy doing everything, you can just like lose, because that's like the thing I think people probably don't realize is like a media company like Channel 9, if they get, a few 100,000 people watching a show, like that's a big show for them. They have multiple people working on that one show. Like, I'm running a show, bringing in 2 million, 3 million views a month, like all me. Yeah. That's a lot of work. Oh, yeah. Because the money isn't the same, right? Advertisers don't pay a YouTube channel the same as they pay Channel 9. Yeah. So, like, I can't afford other people. So it does take a lot of thinking and even watching a movie. Like, the one problem is like it's not about just reviewing the film. I've got to think, what's the title? Like, okay, I know what I want to say in my review, but what's the title? And that can sometimes take 3 hours, and then I've got to get back to editing. So it's just freeing up some mental space.
It's a beast, isn't it? This online space, man. It's such a enormous obstacle to climb.
Yeah.
It's so fun, but it's also
And I
so
think
scary,
podcasting is harder than what I do, for sure. What you do is harder than the YouTube video stuff, definitely. That's why I kicked it off to the side to just focus on you, because it was bringing in more benefit for like less work, because podcasting's difficult.
Maybe.
And so I understand what you're going through with the edits and everything.
I don't know. Like I do some videos for other people. I do edit like some content for businesses and brands,
Oh, cool.
and I try and sell. It's only very recent in my personal life. I don't know if podcasting is necessarily harder. Like I don't know. Maybe it's only because I've been doing it for long enough now that I don't even stress about anything. Like it just feels relaxing and free.
Yeah.
It is a bit of extra. It's time spent turning it into a podcast after filming it, but it's. I don't know. Why would you think that it's harder than what you're doing? Because what I think you're doing to me is harder. Thinking of titles and creating for me, I've got a bit of a generic system going. Where,
That's true, yeah.
And it's an authentic route where I don't necessarily put too much thought into what works and what doesn't.
Yeah.
So maybe from that sense. But why would you think other way?
I just found like a podcast episode is really long. You then got to edit cutaways to each face. Like with these multiple cameras, you've got to edit all that. Like it's just a lot.
Yeah.
And so and doing it, and I remember the days of studying, working a job and doing it. Like doing it after working, it's difficult. Like I'm like, this is my job. So like, that's why I say it's harder for you, especially with podcasts, is like it takes longer to grow as well. So you've got to be working another job while doing it.
Yeah.
And so it is much harder. I personally think like.
In some ways it might be. In some ways it might be.
Because sometimes just through luck, the title comes to me straight away. The edit's really quick and easy. I get no copyright things. And the video's done in 3 hours. And that video might do 500,000 views.
Yeah.
So 3 hours, just like set me up for half the month of expenses or whatever. So sometimes you can get lucky that way. So that's why I say what you do is harder.
Yeah. In some ways.
And reaching out to guests.
Yeah,
like the whole
that is
outbound thing.
Yeah.
Definitely, that's difficult.
Yeah,
and then guests are like, let's lock in that date. Then the night before, can't do it, bro. Sorry. I'm like,
I've been waiting for a podcast. I'm like, this guy ain't coming.
Really?
Yeah, many times.
What?
Many times.
They say they're coming here and then they don't come.
And then on the day, I'm just like, look at the time. He ain't coming. Yeah. But you learn those obstacles along the way. You know what I mean? Like I've got multiple podcasts I try and film in one weekend now. I was living a very long time of a week-to-week schedule basis where it's like sometimes I'd have to film it Sunday morning, get it edited, get it posted, get it up, get it rendered, and then have it out by Sunday night because that's Monday is my release date every single week. So to be honest, I'd get it done. Oh, thank God. Now what am I going to do next week? You know, I'm freaking out.
Yeah.
Now I'm a bit more grateful. Like what we're recording might not come out for maybe a month or so.
Yeah.
It's like a bit more. And to be honest, I'm trying to get it to 2 months, 3 months.
Yeah.
Which is why I try not to mention trendy topics that are happening in the world now. Because
yes, it would be out of date. Yeah.
Is actually about a month ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's cool, man. Like I appreciate that you think it's a bit hard work, but trust me, I look at what you're doing and I think that's hard work. I think that what you've got yourself into a position for now is deserving because of the extra work you've put in. Compared to what I feel like I've put in.
Yeah.
It's cool like that.
Yeah.
But man, I have nothing but faith that you're going to continue to grow in this trajectory forward, and having this 60-year-old plan of being director of multiple things, you've reverse engineered a great way to get there. That's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. That's just the way my mind works.
Yeah.
I think also a bit of like a control freak, and the plan will never go exactly how you plan, but it's better to have a plan than not.
Have a vision, dude. I believe in manifesting. I believe in God. I believe in praying. I believe in guidance and our paths, and I believe we're also responsible for creating our own futures. Like
Definitely.
I believe in all those energetical, spiritual.
Yeah,
bullshit.
well, there's Albert Einstein as a quote where he says, they asked him, what was the greatest discovery of your career? And he said, the greatest discovery of my life and career is that the person's world changes based on what they think of it. Like, that is the smartest man of all time that literally says, your world is what you think here.
Yeah.
And it so is, man. Like, I've gone through periods of time where you just get in like a negative space, and like the world, you see the problems in the world the second you snap out, the second you start thinking more positive, you see more positive opportunities in the world.
Yeah.
Like the most transformative period, like the reason I even got into going to acting school, which then led me to starting this podcast, is after graduating high school, terrible ankle injury, no longer going to America to play basketball, thought I was going to play professional basketball and all this stuff. I was like, fuck, my life sucks. I did 3 weeks, no social media. I didn't go partying with my friends after graduating. It was like this long 1 month party. I didn't do any of that. I just trained in the morning, no social media, watched some films, did whatever. And that let my mind set. I became more positive, and just through a more positive outlook on life, my world just became so much better. And everything good came from that 3 week, no social media break. So yeah, that's like manifestation thinking. It's so true. It's real.
It's so impactful too, to know that from every bad thing that can happen in your life, whether it be situation, circumstantially, or it be just your perspective on an outlook on something, that it's going through that. And to be honest, not getting over it, it's going through that. It's isolating yourself from the world, giving yourself time to not enjoy time with your friends, and not feed yourself with entertainment online, and sitting and suffering, to be honest. And going through the feelings of, man, my life is not going down the path I thought it was going to go down, and staying in that thought and seeing it through is what's trajected your life forward, like a catapult, bro. It's being sent out across the field.
That was, small, like some people go through real, like I don't struggle with mental health. I'm very lucky. Some people have real mental health problems. And so like, I could not understand how people get through that, but that I can imagine the only way to get through that is through it. It's not, there's no way, there's no cheat code. So like, you've just got to sit in it and understand it more and come through.
Yeah, it's amazing. Well, it actually leads me to my final question that I do ask at the end of every single episode. And it is along that mental health topic. And that's that if someone did come to you because they were feeling depressed, mostly because they felt lost, what advice would you give to that person?
Felt lost. You've got to find something that gives you energy and makes you passionate. And the only way to do that is to sit in silence a little more, I think. A big thing is now I think people don't have as much silence. And so sitting in a room and just, it will kill you, right? Like, because everything will come up. But all those demons and everything that you're lost about, you'll find what drives you and what gives you energy. And most of the time, I think people already know it, whether or not they think they know it. Like, for me, movies give me more energy than basketball did. I didn't realize it at the time, but I've learned that now. And like, you've got something like, what makes you, like, what puts a smile on your face, what gives you energy? Like, everyone has something. Everyone has something. And if you genuinely feel like you have nothing, you've just got to sit in silence and come to terms with that. And that's the only way. It's like, there's no cheat code. It's fucking difficult. But if someone's feeling super lost, you've just got to shut off unnecessary noise to understand it, or really think and just go, you know what, that gives me energy. That's what I'm going to do. And as soon as you chase down that path, other paths start to open up, and maybe you'll find something else that's actually more, but you've just got to commit to something that energizes you.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with that anymore, man. It's the silence that I feel like we have taken away, and that's what kind of makes people feel a lot more lost in today's society, because we're being forced of what we think what we want. People are advertising and creating narratives, and it's that journalistic perspective of telling a story or creating a story that makes you feel like this is what I'm missing in my life.
You even get ideas that you think are your ideas, but they're not. They're someone else's. And so like, I'll listen to a podcast, I go, oh, they sell merch. Why don't I sell merch? Because I don't fucking want to sell merch. Like, that wasn't my idea. I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Or like, oh, I could actually increase the business by going this direction. No, that's their idea. That's their life. That's what they want to do. That's what energizes them. That doesn't energize me. Why would I do that? Yeah. But you think you have to do it because I'm such an idiot for not thinking that.
Yeah.
But like, understanding what's really your idea, because everyone is different, and that's a good thing. And what you have in you, like, sometimes it's hard to believe it, but like, who you are is what you have to offer to the world. So don't try and do what someone else is doing. Do what you can offer.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you anymore, man. I couldn't have answered that question any better myself. And to be honest, I couldn't have asked for a better episode, to be honest with you. I hate it when it gets to that point where it's like, oh, man, gonna have to wrap it up soon.
Do a Joe Rogan, do a 5.5 hour episode, man.
I've done 5.5 hours, bro. And I only hate myself after, because it's like, I uploaded it. It's like 3 hours just to upload it.
Fuck.
oh, yeah. But man, I've been super appreciative of this episode. Like, I reached out when I first seen your content of the movie reviews, and this is what I think of that. And it's your charisma, and it's your tone and your voice, and it's so engaging. You know,
Thank you.
You definitely present yourself well on social media, and that was my dope. I want to talk to this guy. That's awesome. And then it was only through doing more research that I went, man, I'm not gonna be able to stop talking, to be honest with you. And to be honest with you, you've opened me up now, not just to what has been the story of what's gotten you to this point, but it's awesome to know the man who sees the future ahead of him, and I can't wait to watch that person come to life.
Thanks for having me on, man. This is freaking awesome. I love podcasts. So yeah,
dope. Well, to be honest with you, one day in the future, I know the fame's gonna come out. Yeah, I'd love to be able to sit down with you one day in the future.
That's the one thing I do not want, but you just get. Fuck. And being recognised is genuinely, like, do not aim for that at all, please.
Yeah, I know. I do. I would love it. Yeah. I'm an attention hoarder. Look at me. I love it. But yeah, one day. One day. All right. Well, until that day, dude, I'd love to be able to see you and sit down and catch up and hear about how this move's gone and the 100,000 subs is gone. And until that day, I look forward to seeing you.
Yeah, so I'd love to come back on in some time.
Yeah,
and see how you grow as well.
Beautiful.
Be sick.
All right, easy. Well, for everyone listening, thank you for making it to the end of the episode. It was another amazing episode this week. There'll be another one next week. That's a wrap.
Shawty catch a vibe, yeah, had to put her on. Bought her 2-seater, yeah, we heading for the sun. Shawty, I ain't tripping for the funds. Yeah, I won't start, I ain't tripping, I'm a stunt.